Good afternoon. The School Innovation and Turnaround Committee is called to order. May I please have a roll call?
Dr. Bofi?
Here.
Dr. Bofi is present. Mr. Castile? Mr. Castile is present. Dr. Davis?
Here.
Dr. Davis is present. Ms. Ellis?
Here.
Ms. Ellis is present. Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Mr. Garvey is present. Ms. Holloway?
Here.
Ms. Holloway is present. Ms. Mellarine? Ms. Mellarine is not present. Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Morris is present. Ms. Orange Jones?
Present.
Ms. Orange Jones is present. Mr. Rock? Mr. Rock is present. Ms. Boche? Ms. Boche is not present. Hill?
Yes, she is.
Yes, I would say that. We have a quorum. We're going to go ahead and get started. Members, there is a request. We do have a request from Mr. Morris.
Madam Chair, thank you. Members, I'd like to offer a motion to move item 3.1 to the front of our agenda.
Okay, second from Dr. Davis. Any objections to that? Having none? Let's move back. Let's do that. What is the motion? What is the item?
Item 3.1, consideration, that's on page 24.
Thank you.
Consideration of the management agreement between the RSD and Capital Education Foundation for the continued operation of Capital High School as an RSD direct-run school for the 22-23 school year. I need a motion to approve.
May I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Garvey. Can I please have a second? Second by Mr. Morris. Board members, there is a considerable amount of public comment on this item. If you would so oblige, I'd like to go ahead and take the comments first and then open up the board discussion. Is anyone opposed to that? Superintendent, let's bring first. Please do.
Thank you, Ms. Orange Jones. I just want to offer a little bit of context to the board in the room. There was an agreement, excuse me, made several years ago, certainly before the term of this board and before my administration, of an operator that would be coming into Capitol High historic school here in Baton Rouge to essentially assume responsibility for operations of that particular school. And most recently, within the last couple of months, we have learned that that particular operator has decided for legitimate reasons on their end that they needed to withdraw from that agreement. And so the position that put us in as a department is knowing that come August, children are going to be going to school, and they need to have someone there in place to operate Capital. And so what we placed on the board docket today simply is an agreement that for the next school year, this upcoming school year, that we would maintain operations with the foundation that is presently operating the school. They know the school, they know the facilities, they know the students, they know the kids, and our belief is just that there is not enough time over the next couple of months to go in any other route to ensure a smooth operation for the beginning of the upcoming school year. We have made no commitments beyond that in terms of what the future might look like at Capitol High and who might be responsible for overseeing those operations. We are not married to any particular idea, but what I have stated from the beginning, and I know board members can vouch for this, it's really important for me that we hear the community and listen to what the community believes to be true around this particular school, which is a historic school here in the community and city of Baton Rouge. I can tell you I have personally visited the school and have been impressed with the foundation that's operating the school at present, but I was also struck by the lack of investment in that facility, not just over the last couple of years, but over decades. Decision makers over time have neglected to give that particular facility what it needed and what it needs to be the type of facility that kids deserve every single day. And so I hope that as we move forward, we can come to some form of an agreement that not only gives this school stability with what the community believes to be important, but also we can see investments in the facility, so that it's a facility that is worthy of the kids that attend school there every day. So I'm thankful to see such community interest here today. I think it's important. I think it's important that everyone in this audience know that we as an administration do not have a particular plan in terms of what exactly has to happen next, other than knowing and believing that August is coming, kids are coming to school in August, and we believe that the foundation that's currently operating the school for this particular school year is best suited to main operations for this upcoming year. And so there's discussion beyond that, but I just wanted to frame that for the room because I know we have a lot of public comment, and I just want to make sure there was some context around that commentary.
Thank you, Superintendent. Just to follow up on the context, it might be helpful to know, for those of us who are less familiar, the Recovery School District, which is a state entity that oversees governing authority of this school currently. What's the current infrastructure for our RSD, and who actually oversees the RSD right now?
Yeah, so we operate the RSD from our office. We have a very limited number of schools that are remaining in the RSD. Most of them are actually in Baton Rouge. And so it would still be in the RSD for the upcoming year under this agreement being operated by the Capital Foundation for the upcoming year.
So there's no like head of the RSD, there's no one who actually manages RSD, whose full-time job it is to oversee the RSD?
Yes, we have an RSD team. It actually situates under Mr. Day's office.
Okay, Mr. Day's office, understood. Thank you. Okay, we have several comments. We're going to go ahead and start.
Would you like me to read into the record those that do not wish to speak?
That's a great place to start, thank you.
And then any time limits you want other appeal and change it, I would like to know that. Christopher Turner is opposed to the recommendation and does not wish to speak. Corey Ryder supports the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Irma Wesley Briggs opposed the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Charles Paul opposed the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Joshua Matthews opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Reginald Grimes opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Dave Clark opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Kelvin Scott opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Carolyn Williams supports the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Carissa Hayes supports the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Peggy Christopher supports the recommendation, does not wish to speak. And Safi Rayo, pardon the pronunciation, supports the recommendation and does not wish to speak.
Thank you very much.
Generally, we have a lot of three.
Okay, so we have quite a few comments here. It's incredibly important that everyone who's here to speak have the opportunity to do so. And so in that regard, we will be limiting comments to 2 minutes each. And we will go ahead and get started. May I please have Mr. Cleve Dunn Jr. Yes.
Madam Walker, wait.
Yes, sir.
May I ask, all of those were in favor of the department's recommendation?
We're opposed.
Not all of them, there were several that were supported.
Mr. Garvey, I had 5, 4, and 7 against.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
5, 4, 7, yes, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and call up several, and if you might just come to take the seats up front and then both fill the first row. Ms. Jacqueline Lindell, Germany. Mr. Dadris Planis. Dr. LaFonda and Hurd. And Kino Spurlock, please. Good afternoon.
Madam Chair, I just point out that Superintendent Cito Narcisse is here in the audience, and he may want to speak, he may want to speak early.
Oh, fantastic. We will address that next. Thank you for that. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Thank you guys for this opportunity to speak. My name is Cleve Dunn Jr., President of the Capital High School Alumni Association. And I want to come and share with you the feelings and thoughts of the Capital community. Superintendent, you mentioned about community engagement and community input, how important that is. And I want to impress upon you that the Capital High School Alumni Association voted in support of capital returning back to East Baton Rouge Parish School System. That is our desire. That is our will. We have sent you all, and individuals from the capital community have sent you all over 1,000 emails saying the same thing. This is the petition which we launched with over 5,500 signatures on it saying the same exact thing. We want to return back to the school district. Let me also say this. I do feel we need a transition year. So I don't support the item as written. I will support it and do support it, and most of our capital alum support it, with the caveat that the school will go back to the district in year 2023, 2024. So I think there needs to be a transition year. I'm fine with CEF being operated next year, but we need to get in the room, all the stakeholders, the state, the district, CEF, the alumni, faith-based, and determine what that model looks like. Now, the superintendent presented his plan, and he's going to share that plan. We like the plan. We love the plan. We have other high schools around our community that are marketing aviation, that are marketing engineering. We don't have anything to market now. We're also not opposed to an alternative track. We can have a medical track or any focus track and another track. You've seen that in other schools. So it don't have to be a singular focus track for kids who are not interested in medical or left behind. We're supportive of that. So we would ask you to listen to the outcry of the community, listen to the outcry of people. I sit in your space in another capacity. We've never received over 1,000 emails. I don't think you have either. So it tells you how the community feels about this thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dunn. And just to clarify, what is the board looking at behind you?
This is the 5,500 signatures on the petition in support of the school returning back to the East Baton Rouge Parish School System.
In support of the school returning back to the district?
Yes.
Understood. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
How many spots?
How many? 5,500?
5,500.
Okay, thank you very much.
And count.
Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Jacqueline Lintel, Germany, once you can. Good afternoon.
My name is Jacqueline, and I'm 1967 graduate from High School. I'm 1967 graduate of High School. And all of my siblings, all 6 of us, are graduates of High School. Also, my 3 sons attended Capital School, and my granddaughter attended Capital High School, where she made 32 on ACT test and went to LSU on tops, and also graduated from LSU. She also has a master's degree now. So we're lifelong learners, and that's what Capital instilled in us. It was a community school. It was a school where people were together. It was a school where we received love, understanding, consideration, support. That's what we want. That's why we want to go back to EBR. My son, who graduated from Capital High School, came back as a coach. And he was a football coach at Capital High School, and moved on to Southern University and then to Jackson State. So, what I'm trying to say to you today is that we want a school that's going to be successful. I heard you say that the contract only would be for 1 year with the school, and that's what we were told by the school board member, to give us a chance to get everything organized. But hear me, we want to go back to EBR. We want a new school. We want a better school. They've done it everywhere else. Why can't they do it at Capital Senior High School? We want that. Our community deserves that. Our children deserve that. And with you all backing us today, that we're asking you and showing you that we have that support, we can move forward.
Thank you.
To a better community.
Thank you.
Because it takes a village, and capital is that village.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Davis, Lance, and I'm going to call the next speaker, Elton Blunt, Brady Brown, and Teron James, please. Just come to that first row. Forgive me, I just want to thank you for the reminder, Mr. Morris. I want to make sure, if you would for a moment, I think, actually, why don't we finish your comments and then we're going to have Superintendent RC speak just in the interest of time. Sorry.
Actually, I was going to come up with him anyway.
Oh, good. Come on up. Yes, absolutely. My apologies, Superintendent, for that.
And Madam Chair, if you don't mind, as a point of personal privilege, Mr. Darius Lannis is my EBR school board member, so welcome, Mr. Lannis and Superintendent Narcisse, and you all in my Bessie district, so I just want to thank you. Mr. CEO, welcome as well. Glad to have you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the Betsy Board for providing us with this opportunity to be here and to talk about this. I just want to say a few things, and then I want to just capitalize on something the State Superintendent said, which I'm in 100% agreement with him on in terms of us moving this school forward. So as you may know, we're excited about the new direction and innovations that we're using in EBR schools. And many of you know EBR has had much challenges throughout the years. Board Member Lannis, who voted for me to even be here, talked about a lot of that before I even landed in Louisiana. And I told him, if you choose me as your superintendent, we are going to elevate and revolutionize education here for this city and this school. So let's talk a little bit about history. Here's what I tell everybody. I cannot do anything about history. What I can tell you that we're very clear on moving the ball about the future of today and where we are. This school has been under the leadership of on the RSD for 13 years. That's about 3 decades, I would say 3 decades, but 3 high school classes, if I can say that. And to sit here and continue to talk about a school that has continued to have a failure, I tell folks, it's not about the type of school, not whether it's traditional, charter, or any of those things. I'm actually a pro-choice person. I don't care about school, I care about quality of children learning. And I can appreciate no matter what side of the aisle that you're in. But I'm pretty clear when I walked through that school, because I went there to that school, and I saw the way that it looked, because at that time they talked to me about the facilities. I looked at the 350 students that were there, and I said there is no possible way that we can continue to have that school in that condition and also not have a specialized program to do well in that school. See, I know there's a report that was written about which schools are better in types. I tell folks, we have done an exceptional job in EBR with our magnet schools, those specialized programs, and some of you actually have your kids in those schools. And what I tell folks, one thing that EBR has done well is whenever it specializes in a program, we actually do pretty good in it. It's some of our most selective schools. One of the innovation things that we wanted to bring to the table is a focused choice model. This is my 10th school district. I've been in a lot of cities. And I said to myself, when I came as superintendent, it was important for us to create a model where we bring workforce development and contexts directly to the school. One of the things I told folks is we do not need to be talking about new things. We need to be taking action. So to say what Secretary Brumley, Dr. Brumley talked about, we already have, which we have not announced, already a commitment from a private partner, not here in Louisiana, because they like the focused choice model, that will actually fix the entire school when this community asks. I just have not announced it. Because what I said to them, it takes the Betsy board first to vote, and then once they vote, I will then bring it to our board. I spoke with Board Member Lannis, CEO of Baton Rouge General Hospital, Harrow, who's also committed to doing some work in that. He's already started with our focused choice schools with Park Elementary, which we started to do that already. We have 40 families that already started coming back to that. We have the LSU Water Institute School, which is a 6th grade focused choice school, partnership with LSU. We've never had a partnership like that. It's already packed, Mr. Morris. 6th grade. We haven't even broken ground in the school yet. And we're pretty clear that we're going to be doing the same thing with this school. Never have you probably seen where a CEO of a hospital is sitting with us to actually say we're ready to do this work. So to check off a few boxes. One, we can't do the same thing over and expect the same results. To sit here and debate about this school doing well, it is not. 2, we have to do innovative workforce approach. The focused choice model provides its own governance. We provided a PowerPoint to every Betsy board member here. It also provides a very different way of looking at schools with partnership. I told them we're not doing things to the community, we're actually doing it with them. The reason why we're not getting too far ahead is because you have to decide first before I go down this road. And since we're going to get funding from external partnership to do this, we don't have to worry about our own budget in EPR schools. Because we're working on other things that we're trying to do with our early college model and our Pathways of Bright Future. We had a tremendous amount of kids in Glen Oaks High School where we piloted that started getting kids to do really well. We got kids who got 15 college credits as freshmen. Never at Glen Oaks has ever happened, especially in a school with that many challenges. So I bring all this to say that we have a lot of good things going. And so when we talk about monetary, which I'll let Elgardo Tenero talk about, we have to think about money as time, people, and resources, which he's already have committed when you look at our Park Elementary focused choice model, where their staff sits with ours, communities there. We also have EBR staff, where we're talking with school leaders in a very different governance model. And we can talk you through the PowerPoint, because we did submit that to every Betsy board member on the floor. But this is not about a type of school, but it is about trying to do something different. We cannot do the same thing and expect something different. And we cannot be in a school system or a state that we keep fighting. We have to create an ecosystem for children, no matter what the type of school it is. And so I just wanted you to be aware of where we are on that. I'm 100%, as I told folks here, as soon as you vote, if you decide to vote for us today, next week I'll have a press conference announcing somebody going to fix the entire school. So that's our commitment.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. Board Member Wilson.
Thank you, Betsy members. It is a true honor to be here before this tremendous body. When I think about schools, the first thing I think about is community. So what I want to do is about, if you all don't mind, if you are a representative of the Capitol High community, school, student, supporter, I want you to stand up right now. It's not everybody, part of the Capitol family, you can stand up. You see, this is what family is. This is what dedicated community is. For 13 long years, this school has been waiting for the answers, and now we finally have them. For 13 long years, and I heard you, Mr. Superintendent, this predated you, this predated our superintendent, with the facilities and the lack of cohesion to get things done, which has only lingered and caused this process to be even longer. Throughout that time, we have gone through several charter management companies or organizations, and it hasn't worked. Because what we know is that a community needs an organization such as its local community school system to push them through. There has never been a time in our community where you have seen the alumni show up, the students show up, the teachers show up, the superintendent, the school board members show up, and over 1,500 signatures and counting of people saying that they are ready to come back to our school system. Never happened before. I think it is by time we hear to their needs, hear to their voices, and do what needs to be done. A commitment is already on the table. Already on the table. A press conference can go out next week saying what we can do for this school in terms of marketing. A plan has already been presented to this illustrious, noble body. We only ask today that we do what is right for this community, because we've seen it happen elsewhere and we can do it here also. I want to take what happened at Glen Oaks High School. Same thing, flooded out for 2 years. And that time we've been able to turn around. In fact, we got the U.S. Secretary of Education to come to Baton Rouge and say this is a model and we need to replicate across our country. I only ask that you all allow us to do the same thing for the second oldest black school in our entire city. Thank you.
So I just want to make sure, board members, you have what you need in front of you. Your plan's been referenced. Does everybody have a copy of that plan on this board? Would be helpful to have a copy of that. Should a copy be, was it email? That's one of.
It was email, I received an email copy.
Okay, just want to ensure that if you do have hard copies, I'm not certain for you.
I had to get to the other 999 emails to get to the document.
We found it. If you have copies, it might be helpful to board members since you've alluded to that. Thank you. Can we have your name on the record? I just want to make sure I have your card.
Good afternoon, my name is Edgardo Tembrera. I'm the president and CEO of Baton Rouge General. For the last 10 years, I've been dreaming about the opportunity to partner with a school where we can work from pre-K all the way through to high school to develop a pipeline of individuals that after they graduate from high school could either work at a hospital or be on the pathway to post-secondary education. And the dream is right here in front of us. We already are partnering with the school system, with Park Elementary. For instance, I have our pharmacists out there going and working with these kids to learn about math, but how math applies to pharmacy. And you should see the sparkle in the eye of these kids when they see how they can apply the knowledge in real world opportunities. With the high school, the hope that we have there is that we can have paid internships and opportunities for these kids to work at the hospital in a variety of ways. It's not just clinical. There's a misconception that it's just medical. In the hospital, we need computer scientists. In the hospital, we need accountants. In the hospital, we need business people. In the hospital, we need people who work in culinary arts. So a variety of pipelines potentially for this. There's another why as to why this is so important. We have a nursing school. I need to develop the pipeline of potential students for that nursing school. And wouldn't it be great if I can embed that nursing school and that curriculum early on into the high school process so that the kids can have credit for either interning at the hospital or studying for their prerequisites for the nursing school. And finally, there's another very important why. Our mid-city hospital is 1 mile away from Park and Capitol. We have a commitment to the North Baton Rouge community. Florida is a dividing line between black and white, rich and poor. And our hospital is committed to make sure that the development that is happening south of Mid-City continues to grow north. And we believe that embedding our culture, embedding our hospital into a school system is essential for that development to continue to happen in that particular microcosm surrounding sort of the 1 mile, square mile around the Mid-City Hospital. So we're excited about the opportunity. We're excited about the opportunity to work with these kids, but more importantly, to work with these families. Because these kids, after they graduate from high school, they're going to have a job or are going to be on their way to go to college, and that will be transformative to those families. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments. Next.
This one's Jim.
This one, comments. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I was just interested in the CEO's comments and specifically interested in the commitment. We've heard from other similar service providers with a similar approach, and it's been successful, so we know it can be done. But I'm interested in your specific commitment with regard to the resources that you spoke to, both human resources, financial resources, and give us some appreciation for what you think it will take to make this successful.
The most important commitment that we're making is the people. In other words, the directors, the managers, the staff at the hospital interested in working with these families and working with these kids. Right now it's all voluntary work, but as the program gets better established, the plan is to make sure that the staff that works from our hospital that is working in that facility is actually paid for by the hospital. Again, I'm not talking about the whole school system, but our staff. Because you got to embed the experience of what it means to work in a team environment and hospital into that community. So that's the initial plan. Obviously, as I'm talking about embedding a nursing school or a radiology school or the LPN school into the system and into the location, into the campus, and then it will include additional commitment on the part of staff and teachers of the school to be at the campus. From a financial perspective, there are no specific commitments that I'm making right now for them in terms of dollars and cents, but remember that people are also constantly at that, and that's a sort of a commitment that we're making, is our people to practice there. I think the superintendent has other more specific thoughts and ideas about the financial piece of how this would work from his end, and the commitment of this other entity that's going to hopefully help us with the issues related to the building.
If I may. Woman Morris, if you want to, sometimes it's better to see these things and work right. And I think the best thing that you all can do is, if you want to see the type of commitment that we're talking about, come right down the street to Glenose High School, where we already have an MOU with Baton Rouge General, Blue Button campus, and they're already working on the school site with the medical magnet program, and it has been phenomenal as we continue to roll out our Pathways to Bright Future program. Right now, it stands 93% of the incoming freshmen are on track to graduate from high school with an associate's degree as well as a diploma. This is a school where everyone said it cannot be done, it can't happen, they don't have a student population, and guess what has happened? It has been proven wrong because we've shown that you can raise rigor while also building intrinsic motivation inside of our students. It just takes time, love, and care, and that's what we want to get to this school.
Board members, I just want to add one more thing from a legality standpoint. So the focused choice schools, we have 2 so far. Park Elementary, which we have an MOU with Baton Rouge General, which we can share the MOU the Betsy Board would like. We also have the same focused choice model. We have an MOU with LSU, same model as with the Water Institute. And as we continue to grow this model, we have bylaws that we've already created in the PowerPoint that you have. If you look on page, it shows the governance structure model, because we want to create a governance structure that's not dependent only on one way of, whether it's superintendent or anybody's there. It's supposed to be a structure that all focused choice follows, and then they are the ones that choose principals, teachers, and those things, an independent structure within the school system. And so that is what we have been working hard to create, because it's important that we do things with the community and also with the industry partners as we do work. As you know well already, you've had many conversations. Most people who are born in Louisiana stay in Louisiana, right? And we have already worked with the chamber and others around working with CEOs across this entire city's commitment on trying to create more focused choice models for industries, so the kids and the people that grow up are going to take over for me and you one day actually have a job. Because it's not just about their alphabets, but yes, they should be reading, doing math for jobs. And so this is the commitment and also experiences. Secretary Buntley talks about it all the time with internships and those things. They have to have them do internships and things with real hands experience so these kids can lead to jobs. This is the new way and revolution of education. This old stuff we talk about is not going to last. But we are partnering in this way. And I want to make sure we're clear. We are talking about partnering with anybody who wants to get us to the goal of putting kids first. I want to make sure that it's very clear. It is not about what type of school, but it's about partnering around industry and workforce so kids can succeed and become what they want to become. And that's the movement that we're moving in EBR schools.
Thank you. Other board questions at this time? Ms. Holloway?
Yes, and if I may, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. And as a supporter of the school choice and also innovative and focused schools, I appreciate your conversation. But I need to have this question clarified. I heard about the investment in the facility, and it brought me back to a visit that I made at Capitol, and I didn't think about it until just moments ago. And Superintendent Brumley, you made a comment about the lack of investment in the facility. Not quite sure what that direction that was toward. But I also heard Dr. Narcisse talk about the investment in this facility that I remember walking through thinking, I'm not quite sure if I would have my own child or grandchild in this facility. And it just happens that we were talking about charters, and I was in the area, and he said, why don't you just come back and visit, because there are other people there. We were visiting at this particular time. I'm gonna say it's maybe a year and a half ago, 2 at most. And it was very interesting to see the students, because they were well engaged at that time and walking through school, but there were things that I had great concerns about. But I do recall, Dr. Narcisse, when you were speaking to the group, you indicated about the investment you wanted to make in this school, meaning that you were willing to put the dollars in the school and even possibly transferring or removing a group of kids from a different hall to be able to come in and renovate, upgrade, whatever the word may be, to do what you thought needed to be. But after that conversation, I don't think that happened. Is that right?
That is correct.
Please remind me.
Yes, so when we went to go visit the schools, my first time to the school, they took me around, I think they took me to the auditorium, which had water piled up. Actually, to be frank with you, I was upset. I said there was no way that I put my own child in the school. I even asked the group that was there if they would put their own children in the school, and what did they say? No. I then turned around and said, I called our facilities folks and said, can we find a swing space or something to help get these kids out? When I spoke to the current group that was in there, they said, well, they took me to the worst part of the school, the other part of the school is nice. Folks, we got to create a school that we want all of our kids to go to. And I was willing at that time and said, let's try to figure out what to do. But then I had to learn the rules about what RSD was, what the committees are. Then I heard about the PASS, again, talking about the PASS. I tell folks, there's nothing I can do about the PASS. But what we can do is about the here and now and the future. So what I did while we were learning about the model, I got to spoke to the KIP folks that the KIP at the time was in charge. They had a whole process they wanted to do. So then that is what that process was like until we went to a meeting where KIP notified us that they were removing themselves, and then that's when I brought up the Focused Choice School. In that approach, after I had that conversation, I then started having conversations with folks across the country about the Focused Choice model, and that's when I brought up, if we got this through capital, would you come and be able to fund it? And that was the number one conversation that people talked about. And I will tell you right now, if you vote to give us back to school, by next week, we will come up and say, here's the partner that will invest in the entire school.
Thank you. Board more questions at this time? We still have many cards to
I
get.
want to respond to Ms. Holloway. She asked what direction the comment was going. Yeah, the comment was going around the fact that kids deserve a better facility than that. And the board member mentioned that neglect happened prior to my administration, prior to this board, prior to their board. Some of that neglect happened prior to my being alive. I mean, there are decades of neglect at that school that kids deserve better.
That's right.
And that has to change.
Absolutely, but I think that he was willing to, if I recall, and then there was some conversations that took place that stopped that move.
I'm going to keep us moving if possible.
Anyway.
Any other board questions, comments, otherwise, thank you very much. Go ahead.
I have a question. What did stop the investment that you had promised to make but didn't happen?
Yeah, so he did stop on our end. We were provided with a list that we were going to take of, and KIP was going to take of. Our facilities group started to look at the list to see us to start fixing it. So nothing stopped us on the EDR schools end. I'm not sure what happened on the other end, but what I was very clear about is that we needed to fix the entire school. And just going through the list was not going to be the solving issue to get them a new school.
So you got the list, but you didn't act on the list? You didn't
No. We
spend money on the list?
When we received the list, we started to prioritize to go start fixing stuff on the list.
You did start fixing stuff on the list?
Yeah, so let me, I want to make sure I answer your question correctly. I can get our facilities folks to send you what we started to prioritize and started looking at fixing on the list.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, appreciate it. Dr. LaFonda Hurd, and then on deck. Bradley Brown, Bradley Brown's from James, should already be on that page. Jason Harris, and Dr. Tony Jones. Dr. LaFonda Hurd? No? Okay. Keno Spurlock? Good afternoon.
Brown.
Okay. Bradley Brown? Okay. Keno Spurlock or Elton Blunt? Thank you. Good afternoon. Please just state your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tony Jones.
Dr.
Tony Jones.
No, I think we will find your card. Feel free. And what's your name?
My name is Jason Harris, representing the United Faith Leaders.
Well, we called, you have one, okay, so Jason Harris and Tony Jones. We called Mr. Teron Jones to be James. Okay, understood. That's okay, you're here. Speak, go for it. Got you, we'll find your card.
Thank you so much. I've listened to everything that was said, and I'm going to be extremely brief. I went to Capital in '77, and when I went to college and came back, I did not recognize the school. Things were changing, and for 13 years. Now, when we buy homes, cars, no one goes to the dealership looking for a horse. Horses are good, but cars are better. I used to watch black and white TV. Trust me, color is better. We're all about advancement. This building, the technology that we're using now to speak. What we have heard from Dr. Narcisse, from the CEO, has been all about advancement. That community there in Capital is dried up. People have left. Very few homes are left there. What they are offering is not just a revitalizing of a school, but a community. People invest. They will send their children. When they find out this school is offering medical, they're offering all these different jobs. We talk about that we want to make sure that we stop the prison, school to prison pipeline. Well, if they're in school, if they get out of school, they got a job, they have a career, they're not breaking in our homes or our cars. This school offers that. We say that we want better teachers. All the things that the Bessie board, that the school board talks about, here's an upgrade. No one on this board, probably no one in this room is running an old program on their computer. You update. You upgrade. And all I'm saying, I'm asking you, do this for our kids. They deserve an upgrade. It is a black community, and yes, I take it that way because it is. It has been left out for years. Coach Blunt is not here, but if he was here, he would tell you for years he asked for this things of this school that has been completely ignored. I'm simply asking that you let us upgrade.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
My name is Jason Harris. Again, thank you. I would love to see the school go back to East Baton Rouge Parish. I didn't go to the school. I'm actually not even from Louisiana, but I've been here since 2004. I worked with a kid as a counselor who was at Capitol High School, and it was a real unproductive place for him to be. And he's actually still a young man that I mentor now to this day. And at the time, under the governance that Capitol High School was under, it was Friendship Capitol High at the time, I believe, these children were completely unserved, and the lack of support was staggering. And apparently it's still going on. Understanding that this situation was in place before State Superintendent Bromley was in position, I get it. But the same governance that was in place before Mr. Bromley came in is still in place now. And the benchmarks haven't been met. And State Superintendent, I respect that you admit that we don't have a plan. And I heard some folks complain that EBR doesn't have a plan. Well, I think EBR does have a plan. And they're just waiting for the green light to enact it. And I support it. And we need more than just somebody in these schools, in this school, to educate these children. We need the same energy and the same commitment that Baton Rouge Magnet has, that University High has, that Lee High has, and that they get to enjoy and benefit from. Our children deserve it. That's all.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Bradley Brown. It is incumbent upon each of you all to ensure that these students at Capital Senior High School get each and every resource possible. Capital has been underserved and historically disinvested in before I was born, before you were born, before any of us was here in this room. And now we have a golden opportunity to do something about that. The facility needs a substantial amount of capital investment. I don't think pointing the finger at the new superintendent is going to get our children what they need moving forward. You guys, in your position, you have the power, the influence, the ability to move and make things happen for the betterment of our schools, our communities, and for our students. I've been in meetings with the new superintendent. I've been in meetings with some of his administration. I love the plan that they've come to the table with. They've taken the opportunity to meet with the Alumni Association. They've taken the opportunity to meet with anybody who's had questions about what their plans are. If there's any opposition, I welcome each and every one of you guys on this board to meet with them. Take the time to grasp what they're trying to do and to get a better understanding of what's coming down the pipeline. We showed you guys a petition that has over 5,000 signatures. That's got to stand for something. The community has spoken. The community wants this school to be returned back to the local school district. Your job is to do the will of the community. You guys are elected to your seats. The community has spoken. Neither of you should be standing still or communicating any opposition to what the community wants. I'm just going to let that marinate.
Thank you, Thomas. Macan Walker, Alvin Stewart, George Francis. You might come all the way up to the table, and then in that first row, Tommy Gibson Jr. and Reverend Sam Parker, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Terrain James. I'm a 2009 graduate of Capital High School. I'm also a third generation alum. I entered Capital High School in 2005. And my senior year, 2008, was the first year that we were taken over by the Recovery School District. So I've gotten to see Capital go from having a marching band, choir, a full agricultural program, a welding shop, a mechanic shop, carpentry shop, to the facilities just falling into disrepair and neglect. What I would like to say to the board is it's very hard to ask kids to have civic pride or believe in governmental processes when they see dysfunction all around them. It's very hard to tell the kids that you have their backs when you clearly don't. Because the things that our government is responsible for, the facilities on the campus, they're not being maintained. The teachers, the people that are in place currently at the school, they're not meeting benchmarks. There's no data that points to them having any successes with these kids. And I would just like to say, as an alum that has a pretty good beat on what the community is asking for, and someone that has been in constant communication with school board members throughout this process, they have put together a plan. And I don't think you've ever had a time in Baton Rouge where you had the superintendent of schools and members of the school board and the CEO of Baton Rouge General ready to take on a challenge like this. I don't think it's been a situation where people actually want to deal with capital. So we have a perfect situation, and I really just want to let you guys know that this is what the community wants, this is what the alumni wants, and this is what we like to see happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Maura? Karen Walker? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Alvin Stewart, graduate class of 1975, Capitol High School. I've worked at the school for the past 34 years. I've served in different capacities. When I think about the history of Capitol High School, I think about it being a warm and nurturing place where everyone was welcome and kids could get what they needed. They were supported and loved and encouraged to move forward. With that being said, now, I think that what made us important, successful in a lot of cases, was our diverse interests and abilities. And I simply would like to say that I support the recommendation of the board. I also have a question, and it's just in my mind. I've been there all the time, and there haven't been any renovations, or the renovations contingent upon simply the return, because nothing has happened in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Orange-Jones, I just need clarification on what recommendation he's supporting. Is it the recommendation that's in front of us, which would be the MOU?
I think he's in favor of the department's recommendation.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay, so what we have in front of us.
I'm in favor of the department's recommendation.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is George Francis. I am a 1970 graduate of Capitol High School. And first I want to say that I support the current recommendation here, 3.1, that CEF continue to run the school for the next 22-23 school year. And my actual questions center around, it was mentioned about the school and the facilities. Yes, there have not been any real major renovations for a number of years. But the thing about that, in my opinion, is that it is not the fault of the RSD. It is not necessarily the fault of the school system that was being operated at the time, under Friendship, whether it be 100 Black Men or what have you. My understanding is that the East Baton Rouge Parish school system is responsible for the physical plant. No matter who is operating the school, they are responsible for the physical plant. If they are not going to put, and I understand the current administration and everything, but if the only thing that we can go by, I think, is the past. If they're not willing to put any money into the upgrade of the physical plant in the past, then, and they want this school to be returned to the facility, then they should step up, put the dollars for it, make an MOU with the entity that is currently there, and start the process now. If that's the case, start it now. Don't wait on a resolution by the Betsy Board or anyone else. If you got that in your hip pocket, then start now with the current folks that are there. Then, if the resolution or management agreement is passed and it is operational under CEF for the next school year, you have a 1-year time frame that you can look back on and say, we have invested these dollars to bring the school up, and now we still want to return it back to East Baton Rouge Parish. We're committed, and we don't have to wait on your vote in order for us to bring the school back and make those commitments and make a precedent. Do it now. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can you get his name? Could I get his name?
Can you state your name again for the record, sir?
George Francis.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, my name is Tommy Gibson. I'm the pastor of Untitled Chapter Baptist Church, and the back of our church faces the baseball and football field, Capital Senior High School. I serve at the church where I grew up. I grew up in that neighborhood as a child, and we are here to congregation and community, as I know it, we are here to oppose the recommendation. We don't oppose the past efforts of the Bessie Board and the Recovery District, because I've been an eyewitness. Not only was I'm just there, but I have been involved. And so the reason we are excited about the possibility of capital returning to the East Baton Rouge School District is basically vision. And I see vision as seeing opportunity in the present circumstances. And I've observed what occurred, and everybody had good faith, everybody tried their best, but as someone said earlier, it takes a community and a village to build a community, and that's what we have. I'm excited because of the investment. First of all, the investment of vision. I've been in meetings with Superintendent Narcisse and his entire staff. He's invested an enormous amount of time along with school board members. He has committed to put the money there. I've heard a lot about investment since I've been here, and he's committed to put the money there. But let's face it, you put your money where your vision is. And no one in East Baton Rouge Parish stopped folks from who had capital to do anything. But in closing, I'd like to say this: there's an intangible part of it. On Sunday, I took my 89-year-old mother driving all around this parish. She had dementia, and she didn't recognize any buildings. But when she saw Capitol, she said, "That's Capitol." She was part of the second or third graduating class from Capitol. That you cannot put a price on.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay. I don't believe we've heard from Akan Walker. I just want to make sure. Okay. Reverend Sam Parker. Oh, not here. Okay. Mr. Jack Harrow. And then come to the front, Courtney Kelly, Malachi Williams, Charlie Grubfield up next. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Harrow. I'm a 1981 graduate of Capitol High School. I actually first want to salute the CEF. I think they've done a good job, and I think in a position they are, I give them the credit, I give all the students the credit. But when we get to, you can do good, but at this point, capital deserves great and not just good. So I salute the CEF. I support them. I actually was a supporter of the charter school concept. I supported KIPP. We took trips to KIPP. I'm also part of the Capitol High Alumni Association. So we took trips to New Orleans. We saw Inspire NOLA. We saw KIPP. And I don't oppose charter schools at all. But at this point, we need vision, just like the prior speaker just said. And part of that vision is we just need a future. And basically, I support our return to East Baton Rouge Parish, and basically I got 3 points. The feeder school concept. So basically, the problem that's been happening in the Capitol over the last 13 years is that we have no feeder school. You can't function without a feeder school. You can't just get a bunch of 9th graders in that come from different reading levels and all of a sudden put them together. That's like taking a pot of gumbo and trying to mix it. The second point, see my time going down, is the partnership with Baton Rouge General. I think that's a great idea. The third thing that I like about the possible return is a stable attendance zone. So I think we put all of that together, and even though I do support, next year us going, being the school being run by the CEF, I still would like a motion that we can kind of tie that to, it will return to East Baton Rouge Parish for the following year, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
my name's Courtney Kelly. I'm a 2008 graduate of Capital. I walk to school almost every day. My father was an 83 graduate of Capital High School, and I'm currently an educator at Capital High School. I am in support of the current notion with the CEF. I feel like Capital has such a rich legacy and a special place in my life, and as an alum, I can't support the school being a medical focused school. I'm not saying that that's not a good opportunity, but Capital has traditionally been open, and we have some of the best people in politics and education and lawyers and all these different pathways, and I don't know that my current students would completely benefit from the program they're proposing. The dream for every Capital alum is for us to return to the district. But I don't know if it's at this cost, and I don't believe that it's the best they can do for my community and my students. And I also feel that if they were going to put the investments in the facility, they should be doing that. It shouldn't be just something that's up in the air. Show my students they're worth it right now. Even if CEF has it for another year, show my students that they're worth the investment into those facilities.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Malachi Williams. I'm a rising senior of Capital High School, and about it being a medical focus on the school, Capital provides multiple opportunities in making it a focus school, making it a medical focus on the school. They're going to take away those opportunities for many students, and for athletes, for many people not going to be on a medical focus only pathway. You gotta think about them. And all the athletes, they're not gonna have the opportunity to play sports if they have to transfer schools.
Thank you.
How y'all doing? My name is Charlie Brumfield.
Welcome.
First, I want to start off by saying, by no means am I saying Capital is a perfect school. It has no flaws. But what we all strive for is excellence. Each day, the teachers, staff, faculty, coaches, and administrators are striving to make our time here the best opportunity of learning, experiencing, thinking, and exploring for the best. All the teachers, all day express the importance of getting your education today in preparation to a bright future. Please do not take away the opportunity of attending and graduating from Capital High School. I have a special connection. My dad is a graduate of Capital High School. And last and foremost, we do not need to reinvent the history. What we need to do is build on the history that has already been started by giving Capital Senior High financial resources and community support. And I'd like to thank all y'all for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment and for your passion. Okay. Charlie Brumfield. Kyle Grace. Catherine Menkos. Forgive me if I got the last name. And then Jeremiah Ward, please.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Menkos, and I am the Spanish teacher at Capital High School. I want to start off by saying thank you for giving us the time to express our thoughts on this matter. You know, as everybody was sharing their thoughts, I do want to reiterate that as the Capital community, we are not against and opposing each other. We do want to be with PBR school system. However, focusing our efforts on opening this new medical school and focused choice group does affect our current population. And as a teacher who has been given the privilege to teach our students at this school, I've seen bright, ambitious students graduate along with incoming students with potential. And I feel like we'd be taking that away if we narrowed the opportunities at Capital to just focus on medical choice, a focused choice group. I do ask of you before you make your decision today to please consider all the students who came, all the support that we're given from the teachers and the staff and the community members to really consider really building that school up for the current population that's there. So please, I urge you to consider their feelings and the community as well. Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Kyle Gray. I'm the general maintenance contractor that works closely with the Capital High School Capital Education Foundation. We come together and the most pertinent issues that they have is a physical plan to make it more safe is the number one priority. And then make it more conducive to learning and kids and the students and the teachers, everyone involved, the community members that come. So they do a yeoman's job over there at Capital High. They take everything into consideration. As you can see, there's not been anything so pertinent that there's been a forced closure of the school because they take their dollars that they get and they prioritize. They try to get it as, like I say, as conducive an environment for learning and keep it as well maintained as they can. As many people before us have spoken, it's been years of neglect. But that's not on these folks, because they do care about that, and we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and blame this group for decades of neglect. And specifically with 3.1, with the limited time frame we have before the start of the next school year, I think that this recommendation should be considered strongly by you all, because if we were to start it, it's roughly 60 days out. How are we going to safely transition those kids, those students, those parents by not having that school in the community? So I just ask you guys to consider that heavily.
Can you just clarify, so I just want to make sure, you said not having the school in the community. What did you mean by that? I want to make sure. The school would be in the community still, just the operator would be different?
Well, correct. And the operator
would be different?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
And just with the trajectory, the planning and all the X's and O's that you can cross with it, so.
Thank you for clarifying.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Jeremiah Morgan. I am currently 23 senior. Quite frankly, I feel like the way y'all going about it is not the right way, because so far all I've been hearing was business. Like, that's what it is looking at y'all. It's a business thing. Y'all saying y'all want to do things for kids, but nobody stopped to look and ask what we want. Every day I go to school, like for instance, I'm going to do a crisis. Every other school, they probably look at it or try to help me. Yeah, I have a job in my hand, that's something I've been trying to get in. And I was the first I was able to get. And going to that, it's not going to give me opportunity. I had to switch schools. I'm a 3-sport athlete. You tell me a business opportunity there, I have to worry about how I'm living. That's not fair. Everybody else saying they for the kids, but nobody stopped to ask the kids. Since I've been for 3 years straight. Nobody has ever came in and stopped and asked us what we want to change about Capital. I'm not opposing to going to EPR or none of that, it's just the way about it. You gotta go about the right thing, and that's something I learned from it. And it's in the Bible, as you find, you can't get nowhere else, so why change it? I can chop that criteria y'all want us to meet, et cetera, but that takes time, all we can do it every day. So therefore, we can't just jump into something like that. All I'm asking is, y'all, thank you. Not just about y'all, the community, but the people that actually step foot on that campus every day. Well, y'all make y'all decision, that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sergeant Jones, I have some questions for you.
Sure, go for it.
And I want to start by thanking all of the students who are here. I think everyone here is, I appreciate your voice. I tend to like students a lot. So, talk to me about the population of students that are at Capitol now. Are they students who typically live in the neighborhood, or are there students who are?
Who are you asking this question to?
Yes.
To
Student?
Mr. Jeremiah?
Jen Morgan.
Most of us, they get like, for instance, I'm like the 7th generation of my family was to go there, and I'm from Parktown. That's a neighborhood that is literally down the street from 46th Street. Most kids there are from the area.
Okay.
Well, not a lot of us, but we're from the area.
So most of the population of students, would be fair to say, would be neighborhood students who have chosen this school. While you could have gone to, I'm sure there's EBR choices that you could have chosen. You've chosen Capitol. It sounds like maybe because of the legacy in your family.
Yeah, no.
Okay. And are you going to graduate? You're set to graduate in 2023.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what are your plans after graduation?
I mean, I wasn't too big on college until I came here. Like, they actually motivated me to want to go to college. So, you know, if I can't go to college right away, I want to take a different route and find a better way to go there. So, for instance, we have ACT prep, that's something I'm going, and somewhere we have, we've been practicing that, and it's giving me a better understanding of what I'm going to get myself into.
Okay. So they're preparing, right now they're preparing you to go on, to make college the next step for you.
Yes, ma'am.
But had you not had this experience at Capitol with these educators, you don't think that's something that you would have done?
No, ma'am.
So you talked about people not asking you what you all need or are interested in. Tell me a little more about what the students at Capitol need and what y'all are interested in.
I mean, for instance, nobody's going to come to the school that you
Pull the mic a little closer. Yeah, that's good.
So for instance, nobody gonna want to come to the school that, you know, they're not really hearing too much about. Capitol ain't promoted, we really was left behind. McKinley, that's a rival school, been there forever. They got renovation done to Capitol, ain't been like that.
Okay, so you think building up the facility and talking about it more and like promoting it in the public would be good for the school?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. And in terms of what you need as a student going into your senior year, what do you need that you don't already have? Outside of the renovations, which I heard quite a bit about. Y'all convinced me there.
Really, I mean, more staffing was like the ones we have now because everybody don't learn a certain way. Like, it's hard, everybody think the same way in certain aspects, but when it comes down to learning, it's harder for some others. Each teacher take the time out to find a way to approach a student to make them learn. Every school now do that. Yeah, it is. So as far as that, giving more help for people who care about you and not just money.
More people who care about children. I think that's worth repeating, right? More people that care about children. So thank you so much. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Darren Brown, Jamira Walker, and Anya Noel. Forgive me, I know. I try to read the right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you for having me. My name is Darren Brown. I did go to Capitol and I come back to Woodland, West Louisiana Parish. That's why I was going. July of last year was the first day I ever stepped foot on Capitol High School. The very first day I knew then people care about kids. My background, I ain't been a therapist all my life. I worked at correctional and ODJ for 25 years. And when I chose this career right here, we know we need to help our kids to not allow the prison to be a pipeline to our school system. My job is I see kids every day from various reasons, anxiety, depression, mood disorder, suicide ideation, all this to create a safe space for them to talk. So every kid comes off don't need immediate help. They need someone to talk to. And we realize that we have violence in school. But we can talk to our kids beforehand, to a safe space. We can stop a lot of things happening in school. That's what we do at Calvin High School. Look down the school, the guy you talked earlier, the things and leadership of this school, what we're real focused with. We talk about right now and look at what next year, what we can do next year, how we can keep more kids in school without suspending them. Because we know suspension is always the answer about keeping kids in school. And Calvin does a really, really good job with the students. When I saw this year, we took the kids to New Orleans, they had their own suite. You saw some of the kids' faces right there. They got their own suite of a game. Going off campus to the zoo, the aquarium in New Orleans. You see the kids' faces, going bowling, saving and busting, stuff like that. When you see coaches going in pockets, buying kids shoes, taking them home, picking them up from school. Not letting that burden with the parents. That's care right there. See, if kids don't care what you know, how many degrees you find your name, do you really, really care about people? That's all kids care about. And one thing to say about the Calvin High School, the faculty, the leadership, they care about kids. Yes, I've been in prisons all around the country. The school buildings is pathetic. They're pathetic. They'll keep it pathetic, just be honest with you. Because you can't put money to take care of those buildings right there. But for that, the teachers, the leadership, caring about kids, it's already in place right there. And we got some great kids. And I remember a kid asking in prom, why did I do what I did for him? I said, no way, young man. Someone opened the door for me one day and gave me the opportunity. That's all I'm doing for you. When my daughter called me, she was a teacher. She called me to a bad day, the kids doing this, kids doing that. I reminded her of her why. Why are you doing what you're doing? I never said it's going to be easy when you stay the course, if you work it. And that's what we have at Capitol. We have staff that are really, really pouring into the kids. From the executive on down to the janitor. We're all involved in our kids. We have some great kids. Now, I'll go back and give you all school system. But every kid should have an opportunity at Capitol, not just because you're tomorrow. Every kid.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Just pull the microphone first.
Hi, my name is Nigel Noel, and I'm a rising 12th grade student at Capitol High School. I love being a Capitol High student, and I love our staff. Growing up, I went to a predominantly white school, and going to Capitol was my first experience going to a predominantly black school. While going to Capitol, I felt like I could be myself, being around people that I know are like. Being in Capitol, I have tried things I've never done at another school, like trying to treat team and participate in school events. The environment felt welcoming, and it's just a school I would recommend for everyone to go to. I, as a current student, while going there, I have made the best grades I've made in a while. I am an honor student and have made matches on all my leagues. Due to having teachers actually care if you pass or fail, don't try and have you into a selective medical school. Otherwise, other upcoming high school students will never get to have the wonderful experience that I have had. All kids should have the opportunity to attend and graduate from Capitol, not just those with high GPAs who are interested in medical careers.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamari Walker. I am an upcoming 11th grade student at Capitol High. Being a Capitol High student is something I love and enjoy very much. I've been with Capitol High since my first year of high school, and I've maintained a 3.8 through 4.0 GPA all of my years attending, and that is because of the teachers. I have some pretty great teachers who certainly taught me way more than I knew before I came. They have amazing programs for kids from various selections and amazing coaches that teach them. For example, Smart Lab, barber, football, basketball, dance, cheer, CPR certification, digital media, coding, STEM team, garden, and even college programs. These kind of programs are what the students love and need. And with these people we never seen come and mess up the amazing opportunities Capital High is presenting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Rhonda Irwin, please. Harris Johnson. Madison Augustus. Michaela Frank Francis is going to be next.
Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Roman. Thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak before you today. I am Rhonda Irwin. I'm the current school leader at Capitol High School. I just want to really highlight something that's been resonating amongst our students here, is that, you know, decisions are often made for students without students, for families without families. And I know that rollout of the petition was a grand visual for us in the room, but we serve roughly 350 students, and I don't believe any of their names are there because nobody asked them what it is that they want and how they want it done. Every day we work hard to give kids the option to choose. One thing that I take pride in about our campus is that we really are a student-led school. Students tell us what they want, and we try to open the door to make it happen. There are programs that exist on our campus that hadn't existed because we, the adults, didn't think they were needed. But now there are programs that exist that students actually decided that we need, and we offer. You'll see students in here who have created graphics for our schools, who they produce videos. We have a television production studio on our campus. We have students even sitting at this table who designed the shirts that they're wearing because they thought that they needed an opportunity just because of the things they seek out in the world, and opportunities for them to become entrepreneurs, and we support that in our students. What we don't support is selective admissions to our school. We are a traditional school. That's what we've been, and that's what we hope to continue to be. I'm not a Capital alum, but my family, about a good 90% of my family are Capital alums. In fact, I still have current family members that attend Capital, and who would want to graduate 3 years from now from Capital. So I really would hope that you would support the option to keep Capital a traditional school where our kids continue to come and grow and learn.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Harris Johnson, and I'm going into the 11th grade next year. My experience at Capitol High has been some of the best experiences I had in my life. Before I came to Capitol, I didn't even know what I wanted to do after high school, and they were there with me each step of the way to make sure I make a great choice for my future. And if you choose to make it a medical school, you're denying kids the choice to better their future if they want to, if they don't want to do medicine. And Capitol is a loving school. It teaches you not only about your future, it asks you about what's going on in your life, how to better your life. Even if you have problems at home, you can go to school and talk about it, which I don't think other schools have like Capitol does. Teachers take the time out of their day to ask you how you feel, what's going on. And if you begin to middle school, that's denying multiple students the care that they actually need.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Madison Augustus. I'm a rising 12th grader, a student at Capitol Senior High School, who is also a cheerleader as well. I love being a student here at Capitol, and I love my staff and administrators as well. My experience at Capitol has been great. I'm an honor student who participates in almost every event. The environment is desirable and welcoming. When I graduate high school, I'd like to continue my educational path and study at university for criminal justice and law school. I I disagree with turning Capital High School into a selective medical focused school. My education at Capital gives me, myself, and others the ability to expand our view on different careers. It oversees the education and career possibilities for those who have no interest in the medical field. Last but not least, I'd like to say, it's not what others say about Capital. It's a good academic option for all kids. All kids should have opportunity to attend and graduate from Capital, not just those who have high GPA or want to proceed in the medical field.
Thank you. Bruce Miles, Skylin Sanja, and I think,
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bruce Miles. I am a 1977 alumni of Capital High School, a former Capital High Alumni Association Vice President, and on top of that, I coached basketball for nearly 20 years. So it's been a real good journey there. Currently, I am the Executive Board President of Capital Education Foundation. I've been around Capital for quite some time. As I see it, graduated in '77, came back to Capital in the mid-90s, and have been there ever since. I've been through the East Baton Rouge Parish school system regime for several years. 2008, when we went to the state, I was a part of the 100 Black Men group. I functioned on their board. After that, I worked with the Recovery School District under the state run. After that, while recruiting Friendship, I served on the Friendship Louisiana board for the function of Capital High School, and that was where we created the Capital Education Foundation, because the one thing we needed at Capital, we needed our name back. We functioned as Friendship Capital for way too long. So we recovered our name. For the 2 years that the Capital Education Foundation has ran the school, we recognized facility renovations were desperately needed. This group has invested more than $1 million into the Capital facility. We were the last school, probably in the state, without HVAC in the gymnasium. Well, we put that there. We completely renovated the front office, and we have plans right now to do a full renovation on the auditorium. So we are moving forward. And I just do not believe that that option that we are doing needs to be stopped. We need to continue to renovate the facility. We have not had that in the last 13 years from East Baton Rouge Parish. So we decided that it needed to be done locally, and that's what we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Sanye. I'm a rising 11th grader at Capital High School. I've been attending Capital since my 9th grade year, and I guess, okay, so like all students starting high school, there was a lot of anxiety surrounding like entering a new environment and stuff like that. But to my surprise, the environment surrounding Capital staff and like the student body, it was very welcoming instantly. Despite the current issues at the time, COVID, politics, and or mental health, during my 9th grade year, I was given a chance to leave Capital, but I chose not to. The thing is, I found sanctuary in the staff and the students and the school itself. Like all my peers, it's easy to say how much we don't like this and we don't like that. But the truth is, we really do love our school, we love the environment, and we love the relationships that we build there. So, like the school allowed us to change the scenery from like our homes, the chores, the siblings, and a lot of, and like for the most part, like most cases, very troubling homes, and it was just nice to be in a different place, and it provided like a lot of flexibility for the students. It wasn't just like one thing or one focus. We were all, like, there's a lot of different stuff that Capital really provides us, and it's just like a breath of fresh air. So, thank y'all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Michaela Francis, and I'm an upcoming 10th grader that attends Capital High School at Frank. I have some family members that is an alumni of Capital High. As for example, my mom, my father, and my brother that just graduated Capital. Capital High School is a school that really brings joy to some students, because when I first went there, I was shy and quiet, and I really didn't, I guess I wasn't used to having certain things brought to me. I came from a school that really only did things that was like STEM. It was never sports, it was never barber, it was never mostly that. Capital gave us some opportunities like barber school, CPR certification, and gardening, cheer, dance, basketball, football. And I heard we are trying to do like a soccer team coming up, and I feel like Capital is a school that builds a team for diversity. We have so many different cultures. We have African Americans, Mexicans, and other ethnic groups. And I feel like we can change it, but I feel like we shouldn't change what Capital bought that already put in front of different students from different homes. Like, different problems goes on in different homes. Some people may have things that others doesn't, and those staffs provide for them.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Anisha Anderson and Mr. Justin Blanchard, please. Good afternoon.
My name is Theresa Ford, and I am an alumni of Capital.
A little bit closer to
I am an alumni of Capital. My name is Theresa Anderson. I want to start off by listing their mission. Capital High School creates an engaging and nutritious learning environment that challenges students to unlock their full potential and empowers them to be critical thinkers, resilient leaders, and high-skilled young people with opportunities to pursue their passion. I am a graduate from the class of 2021, and I was attending Fernandez Field College in Little Rock, Arkansas. From my freshman year to my senior year, Capital teachers and staff strive for all students to excel not only academically, but in life. My freshman year, teachers worked hard to make sure no student was left behind and ensure everyone's potential was reached. Capital gave me multiple opportunities and a head start to my future and introduced us to college summer programs. In the summer, I was given the opportunity to expand my network and attend a program at Fernandez Field College. The opportunity came with a program that gave us a scholarship for when we finished the program. And over the years, students and teachers made it our mission to continue the great tradition of higher achievement at Capital High School. When I got to Capital, we didn't have much for my freshman year. But over the years, the school worked to provide us with a large selection of offerings in the athletic and academic field. For my senior year, I met all my expectations and I was given another chance. But this opportunity was given to me to be able to attend a college and take college courses for my senior year. By the end of my senior year, I was provided with 3 scholarships to Fernandez Field College and college courses on my transcript, ready for the transfer to my college. I'm just asking for everyone to please support your recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members. My name is Justin Blanchard, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Capital Education Foundation. I first just want to make it known, I think there's been a conflation of issues. I think so we obviously support the recommendation around extending the MOU and our agreement to continue operating the school for next year. I also want to make the point that we aren't a national, we aren't an organizing organization. We're a small team of educators trying to create a great school, right? I heard a lot from the superintendent around the performance of Capital. And I'll first say we are not opposed to a return to East Baton Rouge Parish. I think that's abundantly clear. We had this conversation with Superintendent Brumley. In fact, for the last 2 years, we worked with KIPP New Orleans. We were going back as a charter school under East Baton Rouge Parish, and we were in full-fledged support of that. So by no means are we in opposition of our school returning to East Baton Rouge Parish. I think the question is how. I think the one detail that I've heard no one mention, other than our students who've heard, are the details of the focus choice proposal. From all information we have, the requirements of this proposal essentially turns Capital into a selected school. Not a selected admission school, but you have to maintain 2.8 to 3.0 grade point average to attend Capital High School. So when we heard folks talk about in 1950, Capital was the second school African Americans could attend in the community, it was a school that was always put on inclusiveness, not exclusivity. So why would we, as a Bessie board member, as Bessie board and a community, create another school in North Baton Rouge that pushes some kids out, right? Create another school that limits potential opportunities for students who may not be interested in a better field. I think that's the head of the organization. We have 2 minutes. Is that correct?
You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Oh, wait, actually, you're head of the foundation.
Yep. I'll move also to a couple points I've heard. I heard about the performance of the school. I will never come and bash any educators. All of us are in this hard work together. But the reality is, Capital High School has outperformed the schools our kids will be zoned to consistently. Terra High School, the school where it takes up Capital's old attendance zone, our SPS score has been higher than Terra High School for the last 4 years. So since 2017, if I'm not mistaken. The other two schools, Broadmoor and Bel Air, Capital's SPS has been higher than those schools 3 of the last 4 years.
What was the SPS score?
The SPS score?
Yeah, you just mentioned the one. What was it?
The SPS for which year?
The year you're referring to, I'm just curious, you said it was higher, I just wanted to know what it was.
So going back to 2017, they ranged from anywhere between 57 to about 49. Yes, ma'am. But our students, had it not been for Capital High School, would have been zoned to lower performing seats. So when I hear the focus choice proposal, I'm not saying that it's not a good thing. It's not a good proposal for the community, but I don't believe it's the best fit for Capital because it takes away from the fabric of what the school is in. Next, I heard Dr. Narcisse mention a phantom benefactor that we can announce at a press conference next week, supporting all the money necessary to fix the school. So first, I can ask, what does fix the school mean? I think I have a unique knowledge and institutional knowledge around that. But I'll just tell you what EBR's assessments told us 2 years ago. It takes $24 billion to completely renovate Capital High School to the extent necessary. Okay. I could say we have someone tomorrow that we can announce too. How do we know that to be true? I don't think we should make a vote based on that. Furthermore, I think I may have heard that there was some kind of investments or things done at the school now. There's been a total in my 10 years. I've worked at Capital for 8 years. I've been executive director for the last 3. I started as parent community engagement coordinator. But since 2017, there's been a total of about $9,900 invested into Capital High School for these
Family Repair School District. I'm getting open up to books, records, invoices, anybody would need to see, and I would ask the district to do the same. And to where we invested about 1.5 million, if not more, on capital improvements. So I just want to make it known. I think there's been some misconceptions around what has been done. And even when, it's been since September of 2021 that we've been engaged with conversations with the new administration about the CCC, just asking for, what are your plans? You guys have said you're interested in the school. Can you give us an estimate? What will you propose to the school board to know? I heard nothing, we heard nothing. So it sounds like we have some cause for concern about this proposal. You know, that's why.
Thank you, very kind. Mr. Eric Brown, and I think that would conclude our public comment, board members.
Good evening, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Eric Brown. I'm not from high school, and believing that this sitting very good.
Can you hear Mr. Brown? Just pull that microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'll mention.
Okay, my name is Eric Brown. I'm an alumni president from high school, and this seems very similar. And believe it or not, I'm disappointed in my capital alumni, my friends, I call them my friends, because so many wanted capital back at the beginning. They felt like it wasn't, friendship was not capital. You know, this is capital people speaking. Even some of the ones that's opposed to now, they were like, oh no, that's friendship, that's not capital. You know, now, a student been failing for a very long time also. We was failing for 10 years. And now we came back to the district. And I mean, we have a deep, but we're showing progress, okay? And if I didn't go to a Strom, I was going to Capital, because my family was from East Town. That's where I grew up. I knew every ground Capital High School. I know how it was back then when I was a boy. I know how it is now. It was bad then, it's bad now. But we cannot sit there and point fingers. But for a Capital alumni to come sit up here and make excuses why he should stay with RD, become school district. Used to be John White. I remember 10 years ago, the guy that just got up here, I made him through Recovery School District. He is a career employee to me, because he started in the street. And the same people that's sitting here arguing about this point, they'll try to get me to follow them and go to friendship or whatever. You know, I'm just keeping it real, I'm stating facts. We gotta do better. This is the best plan that could ever happen. And I'm telling you now, if Capital don't want it, or Struma want it, okay? We have a brand new building with no programs. Like, come on, use your common sense. Struma has no program, beautiful building. And I volunteer there every day. And, you know, I'm scratching my head and I'm worried. I'm like, Lord, we're going right back to the older Struma. So, but one thing I know, you cannot go back to how it used to be. Our principal died, man, he had a vision. But guess what? He had our vision. See, everybody thought it was Mr. Douglas' vision. No, it was 705 vision. We wanted better. I have 2 kids at Struma High School. And let me tell you something. Everybody trying to get me to, oh, take them out that school. They don't have certified teachers. They don't have this. They don't have that. I am invested, and guess what? They are invested. They came to the ground. We work to get a Struma back. I have no issue with Charles. I don't. Because, I mean, Master Prep is a good charter. But guess what? RSD was not put there to run schools. And I'm here to tell you, I don't care what type of money you put behind it, it just don't work that way. I don't even know how the schools are in New Orleans with RSD, but I know they established schools. Established schools with RSD does not work. Now, if RSD built a brand new school and started the way they wanted to be, well, man, we're going to be great. We're going to be great. And I think the people that came into Struma and did good things, and I think that's the same thing that happened to Capital High School. But you don't turn this back. You know, and just like CEO from Baton Rouge said, man, once you cross Florida Boulevard, it's totally different. The streets are different, the schools are different. I mean, we're talking about certified teachers in either school system that's on this side of Florida Boulevard. My daughter only had 1 certified teacher the whole year. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. And now we got my Capital people. They bust them out of the building. Let me tell you something. That building is not going to educate your child. It's not. And Capital on the RSD, which is still, to me, still on RSD, had 13 years to figure it out. Okay? 13 years, you gotta think about that. That's a long time. That's a long time. So we let people that work, they have a job, stay around for 13 years, and they still failing? No, you fire them. Okay? So we got priority. I'm sorry.
Board members, that does conclude our public comment, and at this time, I will open it up to board comments. Dr. Narcisse, I think you should stay close by. Yes, Ms. Howard.
If I may, thank you for all the comments. I've sat here for a couple hours thinking and reflecting about what has been stated today. Students, thank you for being here and having the courage to come to the table. I am wondering about the data that hasn't been mentioned in 2 hours about the 13 years of operation and where did the school begin to where it is. And as I'm going through some data that was sent, I'm looking at this and even reflecting, even a person that sat at the table here, that couldn't really give us some information about the performance of the school, or someone that may have called me last night and encouraged me to vote for this recommendation, but couldn't give me the data of the academic data. So as I'm looking at this information, I think if I am right in what I see, Capital Education Foundation already had this school at one time, and it was an F school. So when I go back to the data, I see back 2010, F, 13 a D, F and 15, 18 an F, and a simulated score of 50 tells me that it's an F school. And so for us to consider whether or not we go with the recommendation or what the EBR district is asking, it's plain to see that I need more information and someone helping this board understand for 13 years where was this school in regards to academically doing what's best for students and succeed. And I also noticed some data that the graduation rate is less than EBR and the state. The post-secondary is less than EBR and the state. This is the data I have in hand, so please correct me if I need more information on that. And what we're here for is the outcomes of students, that students perform in a quality school and have a future ahead of them better than a D or several Fs I see here. Thank you.
Comments from other board members? Mr. Castillo.
Chair. Mr. Superintendent Narcisse, would you come back to the table, please?
Told us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can.
So my team is skills Jackson. And then you may know this is Theresa Ford. She's been responsible for establishing magnet schools in Baton Rouge. There's tremendously successful, and Amanda Miller is the director of the Focus Choice Schools.
Thank you.
Dr. Narcisse, there were a number of folks who testified that while they agreed that capital should be returned to the district, that we heard lots of testimony that you weren't necessarily in favor of requiring all students to participate in this focused choice medical program. I thought I heard in your testimony that you touched on that topic, but I did hear lots of comments afterwards expressing concern. We want to go back to the district, but are concerned about the proposed model. Can you speak to those comments, please?
Absolutely. So let me just clarify, because I know some of the folks that were testifying here weren't even there when we presented, so I was kind of glad that I had an opportunity to come back and clarify. The focused choice model What we talked to is to have a medical focus with the industry of Baton Rouge General as a hospital there. But it does not mean that it's only medical. We can add an additional focus. The big push is that we bring an additional industry there. So regardless of whatever the kids are learning, which will be chosen through, as we talked with the steering committee, we make sure that the companies, just like you saw an example of Baton Rouge General, would be able to come in because we want to provide kids with internships and variation of programs. I just want to highlight something in this model. I wish the PowerPoint could go back up here. It'd be really good to do that.
Can we make that happen? I'm not sure how to.
Because there's a couple of things I'd like to clarify.
Did you mean the PowerPoint you passed out to the board?
Yes. If you go to page 9, where it shows the attributes of the school in the green, I want you to notice a couple of things. First of all, the school does not have a GPA. It's all students can be accepted, but the steering committee would decide on what the GPA is. Also, you can have multiple pathways in the school. The key thing is that you're bringing an industry into the school. So an example you saw with Baton Rouge General Hospital, because they are a hospital and they do a lot of different things at the hospital, they come in to provide kids with internships, they get to talk to those kids in those pieces. You can also provide technology if they want or any other one of those areas. But the key is that children must be connected to a workforce connection through their matriculation as they go up to become seniors. So we just don't want children just to say, I have a high school degree, or I just have a few credits in college. We want them to say, hey, I have an industry-based certification from this, or I have technical experience to work on that. Or if they want to say, as we similar to our Pathways of Bright Future work, if we put advanced courses, they can say, hey, I have 12 college credits, where parents don't have to pay for college credits, whether they go to junior college or they go to a four-year institution.
I heard a number of questions. Again, we want to be real sensitive to the fact that the community is here, the community has spoken, and I think they've spoken pretty loudly and clearly. But one of the things that came up was with regard to the capital investment. I recognize you weren't the superintendent 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but you did make a statement that Mr. Blanchard referenced, and that is that you have someone on the foot that's prepared to make a substantial investment. Can you help quantify what that substantial investment might be to give us some idea of what you're referring to?
Yeah, I believe that the number that Mr. Blanchard put out was 24 million, is that correct?
That's
right. So in the commitment that I have, and I cannot say who they are until the board votes, so I can technically go to, their goal is to fix the entire school, so they would do the entire school. The reason that they want to do this is because they believe that the focused choice model school approach is innovative. It's something that they see in the state of Louisiana being very progressive and trying to change education and the ecosystem here. And that would be their concept. It would not just be fixing an auditorium, it would be fixing an entire school.
So Mr. Superintendent, you know I'm a lawyer, right?
Yes, sir.
And so when you said they're going to fix the entire school, and you compared that to the $24 million, and that's what you quantify would take to fix the entire school. Are you suggesting on the record for everyone that the investment that's going to be made will be comparable to that number?
Yes, and what I'm saying too is, remember that that building has tremendous challenges, so they can either renovate the building, which we would say depends on what that costs us, or they can demolish the whole thing, start the whole building ultimately.
So there's great reservation of approving the return because of the lack of detail around academic performance. Again, recognize that you weren't superintendent, well, even if you were, RSD had control over the school. But tell us more in terms of how you improve the overall academic performance of the school. I understand that you got the medical pathway and the more traditional pathway, but speak to exactly how is it that EDR will be able to do a better job of advancing this school with the same or similar population of students.
if this school is returned to us similar to some of our other schools, there are things that we're currently doing in our school system right now. For example, adding more counselors in the schools, depending on the size. We've done a staffing model approach to also put coaches in the school, whether it's literacy or mathematics. There's some of those pieces that are in place. And also trying to expand with tutoring. We've gotten a lot of dollars, quite frankly. Just want to say thank you, Dr. Brumley, because without your help, we would not be where we are. I mean, when I came on, Dr. Brumley has allocated tremendous amount of dollars. We've been making progress from our literacy and mathematics and those pieces. They would be a part of that partnership to begin to accelerate children as we're doing currently right now in the school. So all of the things that are going on in other schools, they would get, and also they would have the addition of the industry partners that you heard the CEO talk about to be a part of that process as we're designing. The other part I think is really important, if I could just articulate as well, is the governance structure model. It's a school that has, if you go down into page 8, the structure includes the district, alumni, community members, and we would have Baton General Hospital or an additional industry, the school wanted to add an additional industry at the table to make choices around supporting the curriculum, staffing, those things as we kind of move forward. So those would be many of the areas that we would start to do that work. And if I can add one last thing I saw that there was a data that was shared with board members around, these schools are doing better than that schools. If you look at specialized schools, data in East Baton Rouge, they have done tremendously well with specialized programs. Magnet is a part of that. You look at the gifted and talented, all those components. The possibility for children in this school to do better is exceptional, but they need the structure and support all the way from their matriculation to do that. And our goal is to be able to set that up. That's why we have Theresa Ford, who's over the innovation schools, and we're going to manage with part of the people that actually designed the success of the magnet schools in the EPR currently.
So, Mr. Superintendent, a number of folks would say those are great representations. You talk a good game, they might say.
Okay.
But then where is the commitment that goes along with that? And so before you comment, because I'm also a lawyer, that these representations, if this board were to approve such a return, I would say, at least I would recommend that we have a really strong, solid contractual commitment that it's not just conversation, but it's something that's binding and committed. Are you prepared to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If this board decides today and votes for us to get the return in here, we will have an MOU prepared by the end of this month with our partners and also structure, and we can present it to this board as I'll be presenting to my board as well.
One point of clarification, I'm glad you brought this up, Mr. Steele. So the item on the table today, as it's currently written, actually isn't about the return per se. It's actually about the contract between the RSD and Capital Education Foundation. So step one would be for this board to make a decision about that, and I presume, should there be another action, that would be a different matter that we would take. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's like you're reading my mind, and that is that item is to consider the extension for 1 year, but there's also a great interest in the return, and what I was contemplating, Madam Chair, reading my mind, is a substitute. I don't think there's a motion on the floor, but rather a motion in lieu of the recommendation of an extension of the current contract for 1 year, provided that at the conclusion of that 1 year, that the school will return to the district, subject to the Department of Education outlining certain conditions, criteria, including a detailed plan for which the district would have to commit to and agree to, and the Department of Education would have the authority to not proceed should you not reach an understanding to the satisfaction of the Department of Education. And I would offer that up as a motion.
I would like to second that substitute motion.
That was a lot that I missed. Can you say that again? Our part,
Sure.
just of it.
I can. That the motion is not a substitute motion, but it's a motion in lieu of the recommendation. It is a motion to grant the one-year extension of the CEF contract, subject to the understanding that at the end of that 1 year, capital will return to the East Baton Parish school system, provided that it can satisfactorily meet certain conditions and requirements as outlined by the Department of Education. And if the Department of Education and the East Baton Parish school system cannot reach such an agreement to the satisfaction of the department, then the school will not return to the East Baton Parish school system.
I have a question.
Sure.
I know the board has to make this, can we have those conditions and requirements very clear and public before we begin that process? It's important.
No, because we don't really have your plan either, so.
Well,
it's only fair.
No, but my only concern, board member Brett Castillo, is that the condition is very clear. I just would not want anything to be changed or anything to be loose and very concrete. For example, I can give an example, that we would fix the entire building, yes, check, or we would ensure that there are coaches or whatever the other stipulations are. I just like that to be very concrete.
Yeah.
I'm very confident that the department can outline whatever it's going to do.
I'm less confident, and let me explain why. So when we say RSD, RSD is not some like magic entity sort of in behind the shadows. RSD is us, right? So when we talk about 13 years of a school that has languished currently it's been under our watch, under the watch of the department. I understand it precedes this administration, but I'm not certain that it is entirely clear that just because the department puts together criteria, that criteria would in its right make it a better proposal, right? So I need to know what is the plan, right? Like, we don't have RSD staff currently, there is no infrastructure. My understanding is there's 40 schools across the state of Louisiana that technically should be taken over in some way by the RSD, and the reason it isn't is because the RSD has no infrastructure currently to manage schools, right? So as somebody who has been a proponent of choice, you're not going to find somebody else on this board who's been here longer, who's had to be in rooms like this, where we have faced the community and made choices to actually take a school from a community and receive it as a state. We have to take responsibility for the fact that for 13 years, we have not served this community well. So I personally, as someone who has been here on this board responsible, I want to personally apologize to this community, regardless of what side you happen to be on this issue. But what I'm not going to do is assume that just because the department sort of might have some plan, I want to know what it is. The community deserves to know. Let's get that on paper and then let's decide what we're going to do. But I'm not comfortable just saying subject to the department, because for 13 years we have had that responsibility and it actually has not yielded better outcomes.
Can I just say, in commenting on that, like one of the things that I am most, so first of all, let me say, I hate the RSD. And so.
I'm not saying that.
But I feel like this is me, right? And so I've been in the room where I have argued against the state taking over East Baton Rouge Parish Public School System, schools and ones in New Orleans, and we overwhelmingly, that experiment has failed. And so I concur with you and support the desire for the East Baton Rouge Parish Public School System to have this school back. However, I am sitting here listening to these students, right, and the importance of this high school to this neighborhood community, right, that they want this back to be their cornerstone in their community, where the kids that grow up and live around that school have access to the school that has served their families for generations. And I want to make sure that when it goes back to EBR, that there is a place for the young men and women who sat at the table and asked us not to force them out of their school. And I hear the whole, and Superintendent Narcisio, to your point, that there will be other avenues. but I want it to be an avenue that a high school student who is interested in pursuing their high school degree has a place at the table at Capitol High, and that they are not being forced into a marriage with some career choice while they're there. I can appreciate an internship for the sake of an internship because I think it gains you work experience and showing up and being responsible. But what I heard from students was that they want to be able to go to school and function as a traditional high school student in a high school that is serving the neighborhoods that surround it. And I can't vote for anything that's not going to give them that.
And Dr. Narcisse, can you speak to that? Are you, and this was a concern that many students go to, that there would not be a place for them in your new vision of the school. Is that in fact true?
No, that is not true. There will be a place for students. I think what I've been very clear and passionate about, depending on who you talk to me, is it's important for me that one, children have more access. Because no matter what school you choose, if you look at the most highest performing schools, they have access. So access means whether that's they choose to go to post-secondary, they have advanced courses, opportunity. They choose for whatever career, they have that opportunity. They have those experiences. So I just want to make sure that we're not saying that we want to create a school where a child only just gets a high school degree and does nothing after that. I think that for us to make a statement like that, I just don't think that is realistic, because the reality is children have to do something after so they can become productive citizens to take care of themselves. And so what I'm going to be pushing for, even as I work with the supporting this school thing, I've also heard is whatever their choice is in that pathway, is that they have opportunities similar to what you guys are doing with your Jumpstart pathway and Fast Forward. We just have to make sure that the children have opportunities. And so when we define traditional, I define traditional as that they have an advantage to do whatever's next, and whatever's next needs to have some type of definition.
This is Lawrence Jones over just consulting with the attorneys, the department. Because the item was an MOU item and not a return item, there are certain steps that have to be taken prior to returning the school to the district, which include holding a public hearing 6 months prior to the transfer period, subsequent to the transfer period. And then the board could vote on the return of that school. So I think I'm not the attorney, but you might want to consult with this time. And I don't think that this motion is something we can do today. That's just my thought, but definitely has to speak with the attorney.
Do you have a question for the attorney? Yeah, Jones, you want to speak to that?
Yes. Okay, pursuant to 17, green light. Is it on? A green light. Green light. Yes.
Press.
It is. Okay. Okay.
So try the other one then.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes. Okay, so pursuant to 1710.5, the department can recommend, or RC can recommend the department, invest in either a continuous school in the RSD with a continued in its same operational status. They can continue in the RSD with a change in the operational status. They can close the school, or they can return to school with conditions and stipulations for a return, which is, I think, we've been talking about number 4. But there's also a part of the law that says that prior to the return, Ms. Tanishan said it D.
Number 3.
Oh, here it is. No later than 6 months prior to the expiration of the 5-year period, which we're obviously way past. DESE can take one of those 4 actions. Any action, no, that's not the one, yeah, that's one if they retain, if they're still in the recovery school district.
They are, right?
Yeah, they still are in the recovery school district. I'm sorry, I lost the part about the meeting with the parents.
It's number 3, but it's after the double Ds, the smaller double Ds letters. I can't.
Right, but that's to retain the school in the recovery school district for an additional 5-year period. We're not talking about that, I don't think.
Okay, well, here's, as you figure that out, Joan, here's what I say to my colleague, Mr. Castillo, in regards to your substitute or potentially your motion, depending on how you say it. Is it possible to get more precise on what that list might be so that all parties can make a eyes wide open? It sounds to me like there might be a longer runway necessary anyway, given this. So can we get more precise? Maybe there's a question for the department. Can we get more specific?
Well, maybe we should, great point, maybe we should ask the department if they can help refine that some more. And I give them my best shot at it. Maybe
And
someone smarter.
you should have, it would give, I think everyone more confidence if the department did have a point of view on it, because I think that's going to be necessary to do the work anyway.
So I think Superintendent Narcisse can attest to this. When we learned that TIP would be pulling out of this agreement, Dr. Narcisse, we haven't spoken about this. What were the first words out of my mouth?
You said whatever the community decides, you go with it.
I said that we needed to hear from the community because it was important, because this is a school that is historic, but also, as you mentioned, Ms. Orange-Jones and as Dr. Davis mentioned, the RSD has not always served communities well. And so I don't know, Mr. Castile, what that would be. But going back to the original motion or the original recommendation, we need to make sure that we have an organization that can facilitate the operation of the school in the upcoming year. We have to, in my opinion, take action on that today. Okay? Beyond that, I believe that Dr. Narcisse and I have a strong relationship. I believe that together we can work through a set of agreements that both of our boards could agree to. But I don't know, Mr. Castile, I don't know, Ms. Orange-Jones, right now what those things might be because we haven't engaged in those conversations.
Do you have any sense?
But I do know that I would have a sense of wanting to have additional time to visit with the members of the community and be more precise in understanding exactly what their expectations would be out of the school. And we've heard a lot of that commentary here today. But I believe that we can work together to move an agreement forward. But again, I'm sorry, right here at this moment, I can tell you points 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, so I agree, Dr. Bum, we can come to an agreement. My only ask would be as long as you're saying at the end of their agreement that the school would be able to come back, I would be okay with that.
And would step 1 of that be doing something, would it be accepting Mr. Castillo's motion in place of this motion that's here right now? Go ahead, Mr. Moore.
So I want to share several comments. I think everyone on the board was really touched by the testimony today. The amount of passion in this room for students is, in my mind, just extremely impressive. So I took a couple notes here I want to share. I was really excited and encouraged by the community's passion for the school as evidenced by its accomplished graduates. In addition to that, obviously the student expression was outstanding, very encouraging, especially when I heard that the young man speak to his desire to seek excellence in the school. The other thing I think we all agree on too is that our RSD is not done. It's not clearly not met expectations over the last 13 years. We can do better. The other thing that I heard was, as we spoke to earlier today, is that our number one concern for our students is safety. That's far above anything else we can imagine. And you know, and I heard testimony from everybody. I haven't been on this campus. I've seen it from the street. But everything I heard today, the conditions there are deplorable. I heard Superintendent Narcisse himself say, I would send my kids there. So to me, that's the first immediate concern is how do you establish safe conditions for the children that are in the school? And that's gonna take a commitment from EPR, sooner rather than later. One of the things that concerned me, well, so first of all, I really appreciate the vision that the superintendent brought forward. The vision with purpose, certainly one that is proven in other areas can be done, and has positive outcomes for students. I really appreciate that vision. But when I heard the testimony from the hospital CEO with regard to financial commitment, human resource commitment, et cetera, I heard zero financial commitment, and I heard references to volunteers. It's going to take a lot more than volunteers to implement this program, as mentioned, successfully. So I have concerns with the commitment there, both from a financial and a human resource commitment in order to sustain implementation of the model. Clearly, there have been other efforts made to restore the legacy of Capitol High School by some well-intended people with some great visions. They didn't work. So my colleague, Mr. Castile, is an attorney, an accomplished attorney. I'm just an engineer. But with an engineering background, I would expect to see a plan, a detailed plan, implementation plan, something with dedicated resources, dedicated funding to give me some confidence in what that path forward would look like for students, to assure with confidence that they do have a successful pathway forward, and this just isn't a repeat of other well-intended efforts. So my concern, along with project management, is the timeline. So I think the motion that's on the table right now is, everyone I've heard is in agreement that we can't change operators in 2 months before we start the school. And so the recommendation on the table before right now on the board, on the table before the board by the department, is for no change of operator for this coming school year, while we consider an alternative pathway for the next school year. So I think that's real important. Everybody's aligned on that. And the real question is, what's beyond that? And I heard Mr. Castile's recommendation, which again is fully aligned with my thought process, is that we really need to hear more details. We really need to hear more about specific commitments, quantitative commitments beyond qualitative commitments. And I think that is what this community is looking for. In addition to the vision, is a level of confidence that this model is going to be successful. It is successful because we've done our homework, we've got the appropriate level of detail, we've got the appropriate commitments, both financial and human resources, to make it successful. So my thought was, why not approve the motion that's on the table today, so we get that behind us. Then we think about path forward. Why not reconvene again? I don't know if it's going to be August or September or whatever. Why not reconvene again and EBR come back to us with some solid commitments that will provide us with a level of confidence that the model can be successful, and then we can compare that against other options and see what we come out with in the best interest of students with some level of confidence. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Can I respond?
Mr. Morris, what plan does the RST currently have for this upcoming school year that will ensure that the path forward is different than the past 13 years? Have we seen a plan?
Well, for the upcoming school year,
Where's the plan?
for the upcoming school year, my understanding is that I haven't heard any testimony from either side of the conversation that anybody's interested in changing operators in the next 2 months. So for this next coming school year, I haven't heard an argument to change the operator.
And I think Dr. Narcisse.
Yes, so our suggestion for Member Morris is not about changing the operator right away because we would need time to transition. We would say reject this MOU extension and do an MOU with EBR and also the operator for a transition for the full year.
But again,
and I would say, I'm sorry,
but again,
respectfully, I would just also say I respect about wanting to know all of the staffing and all those things which we can provide because that is a part of what we do in our transition. But if the recommendation is that we continue to do something that has shown that it has not worked, I can't understand, at least from my position here, on what will be the benefit to come back again at the end of the year to have the same set of conversations, already knowing that the current operator is not succeeding. And this board here has been very clear about when someone's not succeeding, just like our board is, they should be shut down. So I cannot understand.
Yeah, so there's two different conversations here. I just want to see if we can get alignment on those two conversations. So the first one is about the operator for the 22-23 school year. Do you see any alternative other than the current operator operating the school for this next school year?
Yeah, I see us doing a joint contract or MOU with us to transition for this year. So we can work with them hand in hand to learn about what their investments are and also look at how we would work through the transition. So by the 23-24 year, it would fully come back to us.
Yeah, but there's a difference between transition and operating the school, right? Those are two separate concepts. So my question is, who's going to be the operator for the school year for 2023?
Capital would have to start the operation because they are currently there. And while they're there, we would begin immediately starting with them to learn what they have or what they don't have in terms of resources and to be able to start our transition with them throughout the year.
But the bottom line is there has to be a contract with an operator.
Well, that's why I was
contractual
perspective, we could do a three-way for the extension year, instead of just being that it would be capital, it could be with us, capital, jointly.
So you're going to co-operate the school?
We can co-work to do that, and because we're also going to be working immediately to bring investments to start getting a new building and all those components.
Ms. Holmes, just one other reply to your question. Yeah, I don't want to infer in any way that there's only one alternative here, or there's only two alternatives here, or whatever, right? I'm looking for the best alternative for kids, right?
I agree.
And again, there's been some very well-intended groups come before this board and made some tremendous efforts. Unfortunately, it hasn't achieved the desirable outcomes. So my interest is just in the same as everyone else here. You know, what's going to be in the best interest of kids, and what can we go forward with the highest degree of confidence. And so for this next school year, with only 2 months before the school starts, it seems like we can confidently go through another school year with the same operator, and then you guys come back to us in a month or 2 months or however long it takes. It might be 2 weeks, I don't know, but come back to us with a plan with some level of detail that we can have confidence in, and we can weigh that against any other presentations that any other groups bring forward that are going to give us that level of confidence that can restore the legacy of Capitol High School without going through another recycle. I don't think that's a big ask.
Mr. Garvey.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Maybe a statement first and then a couple of questions for the superintendent. Yeah, I'm sorry. We got a letter from Justin Blanchard, I think it's CEO of the school currently. And in that letter it says that Capital has performed consistently every year better since 2015-16 than Terra High and Bel Air. Both Terra High and Bel Air have performed worse, according to the SPS, School Performance Score, than this school every year since 2015-16. And a lot has been said about the RSD failing this school and this community because of the results from this school, but I haven't heard anything about EBR failing their schools and their community when it comes to Terra and Bel Air. They're doing worse. They're not doing the same as Capital. They're doing worse than Capital. put it another way, the RSD is doing better by this community than what the school board is doing in these two schools. So the question I have is, why would you sink all of your efforts and so much money into capital when you have two other schools that are doing worse?
So if I could, thank you for that question. An F plus an F is equal to an F. So this whole comparison that we do here about we do better or worse than the next worst person is a horrible argument, I tell people. If you look at the specialized programs in EBR, we are a lot of schools in our school system. We do exceptional with a few of our schools. And we try to do specialized programs, whether a magnet or other program combinations to do things. I cannot defend and say that every single high school is doing great. We have work to do. But what I can say to you is when you look at our specialized program schools, we way outperform any school that you had in the RSD. I think to compare to say that because this school versus that school, we're performing better, is a better, I would argue, say that is a very deficit approach for us to be looking at this. We have to do a much better job collectively on trying to improve all of our schools. And I don't think the current model, if you look at the history of that school, has been 13 years of it going through what it's gone through. The performance has not done well. But if you look at some of our schools with specialized programs, because there's data that you also have received that I'm aware of where they've taken out the magnet scores of high schools and compared it to other schools that did have specialized programs, EBR has done exceptionally well compared to those schools. And so I think the reason why we want to do work with capital is because of the community. You know, we have many communities, as you well know since you govern the whole state, that they have not had a very good way of pushing workforce development and connecting industry and those things to those schools. And our goal is to try to transform that school, like we're putting our efforts in Struma, we're putting our efforts in Tara, we're putting our efforts in all those schools that you're talking about to develop a workforce model. That's why we have our Pathways to Bright Future work. And so I think that this comparison that we tend to always do that will keep us because we do better F than the next F is not the argument that we should be having. I think the argument, the conversation we should be having is around how can we elevate and connect the children to get a better opportunity when they graduate for them to actually work and do well or go to post-secondary education. And I think that that's important. I can appreciate Justin's letter to you guys around saying, hey, well, we do better than the worst F over here. But the reality is, EBR, this is before I came, has had its challenges, just like every other large district in this state. But we're pretty clear that we've been already seeing progress. If you saw Board Member Landis that was here, you need to look at Glenn Oaks' pilot with the Pathway to Bright Futures. We've already made a lot of progress and have data showing that we can begin shifts with children that are similar to capital. And that's what I would say to you. If you look at the population of children at Glen Oaks, we believe that we can do the same exact thing and more at Capital. And I think that community deserves it. And I would always say it's important for us to try to do things differently and not the same.
I would agree with some of what you said, and I would disagree with some. I would disagree with someone saying that all F's are equal. Because a high F...
I said an F is an F. I don't think we're averaging Fs. I think we should be talking about how to make all of our schools exceptionally well, and not just only from an alphabet standpoint, but also from workforce development, post-secondary education, those things. I think that's what we should be focusing on. But I'm only worried, you know, I govern EBR, and so I think that's where we're trying to move our schools.
You can have your opinion that an F is an F. My opinion is that a high F is better than a low F. That's my opinion. You can disagree with it if you'd like. According to this letter, the stats behind it, Capital has a higher F than Tara and Bel Air. You say you're putting the resources into this school because this community deserves it. And I think that that is doing a disservice, or that statement indicates a disservice to the community of Tara and Bel Air. you maybe should put the resources that you would have put in this school into the schools that you already have control of, and do right by those communities, and transform those schools, and make those schools exceptional before you come over to a school that is doing better and try to change it.
Thank you, Dr. Bovee.
I think that we have agreement on the fact that EBR is not ready for this school this year. Like, what's in front of us that was recommended by the department is 1 more year with Capital Education Foundation. That's something that seems to be consistent with the testimony I heard. I think that everything else is going to require more discussion than what I think is able to happen in a BEST meeting.
I think the other thing we're clear of that not one person who spoke disagreed with is that this is a school community that wants to return to EBR. That is the other definitive statement that was clear today. Dr. Davis?
Well,
did you hear something different than that?
Actually, I heard something a little different with the students in particular who are concerned about having a place. So I got a really loud and clear message from, I think, a component of the community that wants to return to EBR. I think the students have some hesitation about that. And so I do think there's probably more meetings that need to take place between maybe the students and EBR, but I don't see more than the 1 year contract getting resolved today. I did hear, and for the first time, I didn't hear this the first time that you guys came up, this notion of the contract being between EBR and the department and the management organization. I'm not so sure about all that, right? Like, I have questions about that because I think other things need to be worked out first. So I didn't hear that the first time you came up. I did hear you mention that just now. It is June. And the reality of running a school is you've got to have things in place in June to be ready for August. So I feel like we have something in front of us that we can do today. Now, I'm not proposing that the management organization or EBR or the students or the community should wait a whole nother year for a decision on this. I don't think it should be a 1 year timeline, but I think there's some people who are going to have to come together, sketch out some plans, figure out some right next steps that are outside of today's BESI meeting.
Dr. Davis?
I just feel like that this has to be said because, 3 years ago, I would have been sitting in the audience, waiting 8 hours to make public comment before this body about the local control of my schools. And it is worth noting, right, that the difference between a parent being involved in the process and what is going on in their child's school when it's controlled by a local school system compared to the RSD is this. My school board might meet for 8 hours, but they meet in the evening when I, as a parent, have the ability to go and lobby and voice what I want from my schools. All of the adults in this room have given up a day of work to come here and to have their voice heard. And so I just want, whatever happens at the end of the day, we deserve the next time before this comes back to BESI, we need to get our butts into their community so that they are not sitting here. They have lost an entire day. And we owe it to them to go to them to listen the next time. And I think that that's the really big frustration for schools that are being controlled by the RSD, is they only have one BESI member that represents them and that knows their constituents, right? So we're all here together, but we're not responsible to them as voters. And so the democratic control matters for me. Then I do hear you, to your point, Dr. Bobby, that I think there is no doubt that we have to have this transition year of the current operator running it, but I really want to see the citizens of the Capitol High area and the neighborhoods that surround it, their wishes honored regarding who is going to be in control of their school, who is in charge of hearing their voices. And I think that that needs to be both the citizens and the existing students, and we owe that to them.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I'd like to just second that by saying for over a decade, we have made decisions about my community, being one of 2 representatives who represent New Orleans. And some of those decisions have been good, as you know, I believe very deeply in our most successful schools, but many have actually caused harm, right? And especially when communities are not, when they're telling us something and we're not listening. Like, we have to listen to our communities. I don't know what else to say. Like, we must listen, right? This is a moment where we can get this right. I understand for the next year, we need a plan. But if the long-term plan is ultimately to return this school, then we need to set in motion that process beginning today, not next year. Like, we need to do something today, right? So it's not, I get that we need to be practical. I get that there's something on the table, but we need to begin the process that actually addresses what this community is saying. Because I live with those decisions we've made for 10 years. My community does. And sometimes we did get it right, but many times we got it wrong, Dr. Gopi, and you're not in my community, right? So this is a decision. I understand, Mr. Castillo, Dr. Davis, you all live, Mr. Morris, but I do know what that feels like. We can start that process today. It doesn't have to be a year from now. Right? And we can address the motion on the table, which addresses the fact that we need an operator in the short run. And that's what I asked this board to consider.
I'd like to finish with what I was heading towards. That's okay. I'd like to make a suggestion to this board as it continues with this process. As I pointed out, there are 2 schools in EVR that are doing worse than Capital, and have been doing worse than Capital for 5 or 6 years. I'm afraid that if EVR sinks a bunch of effort and resources into this school, then those 2 other schools that are doing worse are going to either have to do without those resources or do with less resources. So my suggestion would be whatever list that is put together that requires efforts and resources to be put into Capitol High, that those requirements also apply to Terra and Bel Air, so that all 3 of these schools can be improved at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Gardy. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask Mr. Castillo, work with you here. If we rush through something today without a plan, and get to a point down the road to where EBR and LDOE get together to then consider the plan, what happens if they don't agree?
I can answer that. The answer is we're right back where we are. And that is, we have an opportunity to move forward. But if they don't agree, the departments, EBR, if they disagree, that brings it right back to us. But it does set in motion a process by taking action today. That's the direct answer to your question.
So again, I don't understand the downside for coming back with a plan as opposed to rushing forward without a plan. I appreciate the passion of True for an operator other than RSD, and like the student said, to see excellence in the school. And everyone should have that expectation. But without a plan, I don't think we're doing the students justice. Like I said earlier, there have been others that have come forward with ideals, great ideals in mind, the best interest of students. And even they had a plan, right? The rigor that they went through was quite substantial to put their plan in place. All I'm asking for is reasonable consideration, move forward with some level of confidence. before we take a leap of faith. So that we don't come back here next year and start the same conversation all over again.
I think we're a board that can walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay? So my question for Mr. Castillo is this. If we are able to pass this today, but in August, have the department come back with a plan for return that is amenable to both the department and to Dr. Narcisse, would you support that?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm asking whether or not we could direct the department to come back in August with a plan that addresses the return. And that would require that we're directing the department to work closely with Dr. Narcisse in the next 2 months to actually come back with a plan on the return.
I know exactly.
Okay. Would you be comfortable adding that to your motion?
Sure.
Great. Revising your motion. We probably need you to reframe it.
I would say probably approve the MOU and direct the department to come back in August with a plan to return capital to EBR for the 24 school year, 27.
That sounds like Ms. Harris-Jones' amendment to the substitute motion.
Yes. That's what I was saying, yes.
Just framing it the right way.
22, 23? That would be the fiscal year? 23, 24.
Yes.
Madam Chair, yeah, I would like to make a suggestion that we bifurcate those two issues and vote on them separately.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, because I would like to vote for one or against the other.
That is clear, that is your prerogative. Yes. Can I ask one more question about the, just so I'm clear on what this MOU, does this MOU mean that the Capital Education Foundation can charter the school for the next year? Do they have to direct run the school? They have to direct run the school. They just want to be very clear.
If I can jump in. So for this 1 year, they would direct run the school on behalf of the RSD. As it relates to Mr. Garvey's question, there are a couple ways you can handle it. There's a motion that's on the floor that's been amended, as a friendly amendment, and I know Shannon, Ms. Davis, we're not supposed to do that.
I was not speaking to you, I mean, amending your motion.
But with it as an amendment to the motion, that motion would either pass or fail. If it then fails, Mr. Garvey, then you could make two motions that can be bifurcated at that point. One, the original recommendation, and two, the second part that addresses the direct fund issue. That's one way procedurally to handle the matter.
Well, I'll take a motion to amend the current motion so as to bifurcate it. If I get a second, then I get a second. If I don't, I don't.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second for Mr. Garvey's motion?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Which one do we have to take in more?
So we actually vote on the amendment, so we vote on whether or not to make that amendment. You're not voting on the action, you're voting on
Whether to bifurcate or not bifurcate.
put it together. To bifurcate or not to bifurcate, that is the motion.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Garvey, was your action, the motion to substitute the amended motion that I made?
No, to amend the motion, amend the amended motion.
Bifurcate. Yes, so we're, we need a roll
Yeah.
call.
How powerful would it be though for our board to be able to do both of these things, Mr. Garvey? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Roll call vote.
Can we get clarification on what we're voting for?
We're voting on just whether or not we can bifurcate the two items on the table. The first being the MOU that is here, the motion as it stands for 3.1. The second one being the direct the department to begin the process of return, that they would bring a proposal back to us in August. And the motion on the table is to bifurcate those as opposed to taking them together. Does everybody understand that? So the motion on the table is to bifurcate. There's a second for it. Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Garvey, Mr. Morissette.
Explain.
Dr. Bulkey?
Yes.
Dr. Bulkey votes yes. Mr. Castillo?
No.
Ms. Castillo votes no. Dr. Davis?
No.
Dr. Davis votes no. Ms. Ellis?
They are trying to figure out what we're voting on.
Yeah. So the original motion was to approve the MOU. This was the amended motion. Approve the MOU and then have the department come back in August with a plan to present to Bessie to return the school to EBR. Mr. Garvey amended the motion, wanted to make an amendment to that motion to separate those two issues. MOU, return report in August. And now you are voting on whether or not we want to separate those two issues. You're not voting on whether to approve either one, but just the separation of it. So when you have an amendment, you vote on the making the amendment. Okay?
Do you understand?
So what's
Do you want to vote on each item separately, or do you want to vote on them both together?
I think that's still the challenge, you're right.
Well, we're not,
We voted
we're not,
on Mr. Garvey's
yes, so
motion
you
to
still have a second to
separate
think
it.
about it.
I think we are.
Are we?
I'm gonna vote to keep them together.
So no.
Yes, okay.
Ms. Garvey?
Yes.
Ms. Holloway?
Keep them together.
Can't hear
Whatever
me.
that means.
No.
You said no?
Wait.
Mr. Mellerin is not in attendance. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Rock?
No.
Mr. Rock votes nay. No. Ms. Boche is not in attendance. You have 3 yeses.
Wait, you didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Jones, Orange Jones, do you want to vote?
It's,
I want to keep them together.
I'm sorry.
She votes no.
We have 3 yes and 6 no.
Motion failed. Motion failed. Mr. Castillo, you're up, I think.
Chair, you have to update my motion.
Okay, can we repeat Mr. Castillo's motion into the record?
the friendly amendment from Mr. Castillo?
That's correct.
Okay. The motion is to approve the amendment of the MOU for RSD and the Capital Education Foundation for the continued operation of Capital High School as an RSD direct-run school for the 22-23 school year, and to direct the department to come back to the board in August with a report regarding the report and a plan of this Capital High School to East Baton Rouge Parish School Board for the 23-24 school year.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Dr. Bope?
Yes.
Dr. Bope votes yes. Ms. Castillo?
Yes.
Ms. Castillo votes yes. Dr. Davis?
Yes.
Dr. Davis votes yes. Ms. Ellis?
Yes.
Ms. Ellis votes yes. Mr. Garvey?
No.
Mr. Garvey votes no. Ms. Holloway?
Yes.
Ms. Holloway votes yes. Ms. Mellerin is not in attendance. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Rock?
Yes.
Mr. Rock votes yes. Ms. Noche is not in attendance. You have
I vote.
7 yes.
I'd like to vote
I'm
on
sorry.
records, yes.
Yes, I apologize.
Chair votes yes. Okay, so.
Okay, we have 8 yeses, 1 nay.
Thank you.
Motion passed.
Motion passed. Thank you. All right, next item. Guess what? We're just getting started. Next item.
Back to the beginning, item 2.1, consideration of the status report regarding the charter school enrollment percentages of economically disadvantaged students and students with disabilities. Recommendation is to receive.
So moved.
Dr. Bopey with second. Second. Davis. Okay. We're ready to take this item.
Yes, please. Please, give me the report.
All right, good afternoon. The item before you guys right now, item 2.1, is consideration of status report regarding charter school enrollment percentages, economically disadvantaged students, and students with disabilities. The law requires that charter schools enroll economically disadvantaged students and students with disabilities at a rate commensurate with the population of students that makes up their enrollment. The second part of that law also stipulates that Bessie, through the department, shall develop and administer a process by which we dig into issues surrounding schools that may not be meeting these targets, and we work with those schools to outline the remedies that they will take and put into effect in order to go ahead and meet those requirements. In terms, the report itself is in exactly the same format that it has been presented in previous years, but some of the key takeaways and differences from this round of data. 91% of our type 2 and 4 charter schools are meeting the economically disadvantaged requirements. That's up from 75% last time that this report was published. There are 4 schools that are not currently meeting that requirement. That would be Acadiana Renaissance, Avoyelles Public Charter School, Lycée Français, Elephant New Orleans, and Louisiana School for Agricultural Sciences. The Acadiana Renaissance is off by 12%, Avoyelles Public Charter School is off by 3%, Lycée Français was off by 9%, and Louisiana School for the Agricultural Sciences, our only type 4 in the portfolio, was off by 20%. Like I said, however, in terms of a global understanding of the portfolio, 91% of schools are meeting the economically disadvantaged requirement, which again is up from 75% last time this was prepared. In terms of the students with disabilities requirements, at this point, 48% of our type 2 and 4 charter schools are meeting those students with disabilities requirements. That is down from 62% before. Some of that has to deal with the change in the portfolio, just the change in the denominator as we're growing and adding schools. But when you dig in a little bit deeper, of those, that's 21 schools that are not meeting the requirement. 5 of those schools are within 0 to 1% of meeting the requirement. So a quarter of the schools that are within 1%. There were 4 schools that were between 2.1 and 3.0%. 3 schools were between 3.1 and 4.0% off. 3 more schools were 4.1 to 5.0, and then there were 4 schools that were 5% or more off from the students with disability target. Once we have the data, our next step, as stipulated by that report, in the coming months, the summer months specifically, our team will be working with each of the schools that are not meeting the target, whether that's economically disadvantaged or students with disabilities, to complete an enrollment and recruitment plan. This plan will outline the causes leading to the schools not being able to meet those targets, but then importantly, will outline the actions that they will take with quarterly checkpoints that will lead us through next spring's lottery. Because if we do this right, if we do this well, we'll be able to close that gap. But it is very important to spend that time with these schools over the summer, identify, diagnose the problem, and then see what they're really going to do to go ahead and close the gap. While I find that number concerning, and I find the shift from 62 to 48 concerning, I do want to make the point that when, in addition to working with the schools to bring those numbers up, I also want to talk about what we do on a regular basis to make sure that our schools are serving their special education students well, that they have. For each one of our annual site visits, we do a special education file review. We pull somewhere between like 7 and 10 files completely at random, and then we run them through a checklist in which we look at things like the evaluation date and timeline compliance, IEP compliance with the evaluation, are they aligned? We look to make sure that IEPs are current and up to date by looking at the most recent signatures. We look at IEP signatures. Is everybody on the IEP team? Do we have family signatures? Do we have administrator signatures? Then we look at the service minutes provided. We want to make sure that schools are documenting those services provided, that they have that backup documentation to prove that happened and that it is aligned with what's in the IEP. We also look for progress reports that are supposed to be sent home to parents on a regular basis, as outlined in the IEP. And then lastly, we just look for contact logs. How often is the school reaching out to the parents and keeping them informed of the student's progress? And I can tell you that after this year's round of annual visits, the evaluation date and timeline compliance, 98% of schools had that right of the files that we reviewed. In terms of the IEP aligning with the evaluation, again, 98% of the files we reviewed were correct. 97% of the IEPs that we looked at were current, up to date, and had signatures within the last year. The the date was correct. 97% of IEP meetings had happened within the last year. In terms of signatures, 89% of all of the files that we reviewed had all necessary signatures. When it comes to service minutes, being able to document the services that students are receiving, 96% of the files that we reviewed were in full compliance there. 98% of progress reports, 98% of files had all the progress reports and had evidence of that. And then lastly, 100% of the files that we reviewed had parent contact logs. And I think that is that is due to the focused effort that we put on this. Over the last 2 years, we have integrated the special education file review and compliance review into our oversight activities. And so I think that is why you're able to see at this point numbers in the high 90s about are they serving students the way that they should once they're at their building. We do know that there's work to do in order to make sure that every school that is in our portfolio is serving kids equitably. And that's the work that we're going to be focusing on over the next couple of months while working to maintain those high 90s that we just discussed.
Thank you for your comments and for the report. Board members, are there any questions? Dr. Davis.
I'd just like to quickly say how much I appreciate your efforts and that those efforts are not punitive, but they're kind of corrective and trying to help charter schools figure out how they can do things better to meet these standards. And I would like in terms of how economic disadvantage correlates with our accountability system in ways that are not healthy.
So Dave, at the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned the number of schools that had moved into compliance in comparison to the last time this report was made. There was a bit of noise from the back as people were exiting. I think it's a really good point. I'd ask that you to make that point again, just so the full board can hear that.
Sure. In terms of our economically disadvantaged requirements, the last time that this report was published, 75% of schools in the portfolio were meeting that bar. This data, this year's data shows us that 91% of our charter schools are meeting the economically disadvantaged requirements.
Any additional questions from the board? Any objections to the motion? Having the motion passes. Next item.
Next item, consideration of a report on types 2, 4, and 5 charter contracts and request for amendment. We have the Southwest Charter Academy Foundation, which is requesting to be combined with Lake Charter Academy. We have Louisiana Key Academy, which is proposing to make a material amendment to add kindergarten. And recommendation 3 is for the Auburn Woods for a material amendment to begin the retirement system, Louisiana retirement system in 22-23.
Can I correct you with Darbon Woods? That's my area, but I have issues there all the time. I gotta say it right. Darbon Woods. Well,
Okay.
let's make a motion. Is there a second? Great.
Okay, listen to.
There's 2 comments, Mr. Gardy. There's 2 comments, board members, and we'll open up the comment. Okay, so, Ms. Jean Thibodeau? Mr. Excuse me, Jean Thibodeau. I don't know if Jean, would you like to speak? Okay.
You have questions?
Yes, oh, you have questions, so come on in case you do. Angelita Cartwright? Would you like to speak? If there's questions.
I have a question.
Okay, good. Dr. Bovee.
Would just like to take a moment to recognize Judge Thibodeau for his many years of service to his community and his continued service to the boards, hoping to be board there in Lake Charles.
If there are questions, Dr. Rosales, if you might.
Hi, Judge. Why don't you just tell us what you're doing here, please? I'm talking to you, Judge. That's right. Yeah, yeah. Just high level.
Yeah,
We haven't been here long enough yet.
someone has asked me recently
Press the
to
center button.
consider running
No, press
for
your
a position on
button.
this.
Judge, if you can press your button.
Yeah, there you go. You had it.
It was there.
I was asked recently to consider running for a spot on this board, and I'm at Amy White House. The answer is no, no, no. Now, I'm here to request consideration of transferring charters for Lake Charles College Prep High School and Southwest Louisiana Charter Academy, which is one of our pre-K through 8 schools. We have 3 schools and 2 charter schools in Lake Charles. 2, Southwest Louisiana Charter Academy and Lake Charles College Prep are governed by Southwest Louisiana Charter Academy Foundation. Lake Charles Charter Academy is covered by Lake Charles Charter Academy. So each month we have 2 meetings, 2 separate boards for 3 schools, and the boards are exactly the same. And when we started Lake Charles Charter Academy Foundation in 2010, we applied for and implemented a pre-K through 8 charter. Because of our experience in the bond documents, there was a covenant that said Lake Charles Charter Academy Foundation cannot own or operate another charter school. That was our experience, so we had to form another board, Southwest Charter Academy Foundation. Same board, but with a different federal EIN number to run these 2 schools. And that's the way that they're operating today. Lake Charles Charter Academy and Southwest Louisiana Charter Academy are 3 miles apart. Lake Charles Charter Academy is right down the street from the high school, Lake Charles College Prep. And so the boards of the 2 schools thought, does it make any sense to have 2 schools, pre-K through 8, 3 miles apart in Lake Charles? And the answer was no. So what we did, the board is considering a realignment of the schools. Pre-K through 4 perhaps, 5 through 8, then 8 high school. The first step in doing that, according to people that we are working with, is to merge the schools under one charter. So what we're asking is to have Southwest Charter Academy Charter, which is our second school, Lake Charles College Prep Charter, which is our high school, come under the guidance and governorship of Lake Charles Charter Academy Foundation. Lake Charles Charter Academy is the flagship school and is the mother school in Louisiana. And secondly, the 10-year redemption period has passed, so we are not eligible to refinance the bonds. The bonds in 2011 were not that favorable. The bonds at the beginning of the year, the interest rates were very favorable. They're not that favorable now, but they're still better than 2011. So what we are asking is to have, what we aspire to is to have a K through 12 system with one same code, where all 3 schools would be under one governance. That is, where the schools would be realigned to have pre-K through 4 or 5, and then 5 through 8, and then our high school. And in order to accomplish that, we've been talking with Samantha Day, Ms. Pam Schuler, Mr. Klein,
telling me is you want to go to fewer meetings, not more.
Well, that would be one of the,
Got it. I got it. Thank you, Judge. The question that I had for Louisiana Key Academy is connected to how you'll know, because what I understand about students who exhibit signs of dyslexia, how you'll know who the right kindergartners are for your program.
Hello, so my name is Andromeda Cartwright. I'm the Special Education Director at Louisiana Key Academy. And that's a really great question. So thinking about dyslexia, we know that it can be diagnosed in the spring of kindergarten. So with this kindergarten program, what we're really hoping to do is to assess students at the end of pre-K, so before they come into kinder. And with that assessment, we're just going to determine if they're at risk for dyslexia. So that's more of, so we're looking more at like those clinical indicators. So just looking at things from their history as far as things like a slight delay in speech. We may note some things in like their spoken language. So some early indicators of dyslexia there would be things like difficulty just expressing their thoughts in words. Some kids at that age may have trouble with producing a story in a logical sequence and things like that. So we're really looking at those early clinical indicators that tell us that a student may be at risk. And through that, we would be able to identify them as being at risk. They would enter that kindergarten program. Throughout the school year, we would do some progress monitoring to determine at that spring of kindergarten year time we'll do like our formal assessment to determine if they are in fact dyslexic. So it's really just kind of giving them the opportunity to, those students that are at risk, giving them the opportunity to participate in evidence-based instruction throughout their kindergarten year. Then at the end of that kindergarten year, we would be able to formally identify them.
So if they're not formally identified, would you dismiss them from the school?
Yes. So the program is designed in a way that we're identifying those kids that are at risk, and then if they're found to be actually dyslexic at the end of that kindergarten year, they would then transition into our first grade classrooms. So if they are not found to be dyslexic, they would go to a traditional school, but they will have had that intensive instruction throughout their kindergarten year, so that even if they aren't found to be dyslexic, they still have received quality instruction throughout their kindergarten year.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Additional questions from the board? Okay. Any objections to the motion? Having none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. Next item.
Next item is item 3.2.
Okay. Page.
Yeah. Page 38. Consideration of the MOU between the RSD and Shreveport Charter School Incorporated for the continuing operation of Linwood Charter as an RSD direct-run school for the 22-23 school year.
Can I have a motion on it?
Approve.
Motion is to approve. Okay. Motion by Mr. Gardy, second by Dr. Gopi. Is there a comment you would like to speak to this at all? Superintendent? Okay. Is there any comment, public comment? Is there any board discussion? Any objections to the motion? Having done, the motion passes. Next item.
That concludes your agenda.
All right.